Chapter 151. He is bold, smart, and a great candidate. The god of war Ares decided to entrust this task to the little young man who loved to eat children. Let this apostle kill his love rival, the lover of Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty. My task is not difficult, but it will offend the gods of Mount Olympus. Do you have the unbreakable courage to take it on? The domineering and cold voice of the god of war Ares came from the sky. I am willing, but I hope to get an equal reward. The little young man who loves to eat children said with a calm expression and a steady tone. He was not afraid of the so-called gods. After finishing this job, he planned to go to another world to have a look. As you wish. The voice of the god of war Ares came from the sky, followed by a cold light filled with blood-red light that rushed straight to the earth. When the light faded, a 2-inch long short knife with blood-colored patterns appeared on the ground. The dagger exudes a strong murderous aura and smell of blood. Holding it in the hand, it has a magical power that makes people bloodthirsty. This dagger is made from my ribs. It is extremely sharp and can cut through anything with ease, even the body of a god. In addition, I will use my divine power to help you hide Sisyphus so that he will not be discovered by other gods. The little young man who loved to eat children swallowed his saliva. When the knife came out, he immediately realized that it was a rare artifact. I didn't expect that this was made by the god of war Ares using his own ribs. It took him so much effort and cost. I wonder what his mission is. Helping Sisyphus to conceal and hide is indeed a very reliable thing to do, which can relieve you of worries. I want you to kill Adonis, the male god who controls the growth and withering of plants. Could it be the legendary Adonis, the most beautiful male god? The little young man who loves to eat children exclaimed. Even if he had never been to Mount Olympus, he had heard of the name of this god. He is a god born in the new era. His priesthood is a small branch of the plant priesthood and his strength is not outstanding. However, in the eyes of the players, touching the god of plants is a way to death. What made him famous far and wide was his divine and handsome appearance and his pure temperament, which attracted countless goddesses and made them intoxicated. Also, his origin is a very legendary story. His mother was a princess from a human country, beautiful and of noble status. Under such circumstances, he couldn't help but feel arrogant and spoke rudely to Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty. It was her arrogant behavior that caused her to pay an irreparable price and regret it deeply. In order to punish her for her wild words, Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty, used her best ability and the power of love to arouse her inner desires. But how can this ordinary desire be considered a punishment? The real punishment was the object of her affection. That man was her father, the king of the country. In endless torment, she finally couldn't resist the desire in her heart, so she bribed her servants and took advantage of the dark and windy night when she couldn't see people clearly to do the wrong thing. For 10 days and 10 nights, she would go into his room and make love to him. Finally one day, she accidentally made a sound, a clear and familiar sound, which was discovered by her sharp and intelligent father. This horrible thing made his father so angry that he lost his mind and picked up the sword to chop at her. The poor princess was so frightened that she could only run and pray to the gods. There were also kind people among the gods. They secretly turned the princess into a big tree to avoid being killed by the angry king. A year later, a crack appeared in the tree, and a cute and lively child was born from it. At this time, Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty, felt that she had gone too far. After seeing the child, she was very moved and took him back to her palace to raise him. After that, the child gradually grew up and became a handsome young man with unparalleled elegance and extraordinary temperament. Such a beautiful appearance made Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty, unable to help but be fascinated by him, and she even made him her own private lover. When other goddesses of art and various forest nymphs found out about this, they dared not speak out due to the powerful presence of Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty. It is conceivable that killing Adonis would be equivalent to offending most of the goddesses and fairies. Thinking of this, the little young man who loves to eat children became restless. It was too exciting to kill a perfect male god that countless goddesses were worried about. I'll take the mission, but isn't Adonis always on Mount Olympus? Only a few apostles can get close to it. Someone like me with murderous intent will definitely be turned away. The little young man who loves to eat children asked the most critical question. Don't worry, I will lead him out. The poor guy also wants freedom. The god of war Ares said in a somewhat sarcastic tone. Go to the forest of thorns under Mount Olympus and wait. I will let you know when the time comes. The little young man who loved to eat children nodded and agreed. When a person possesses a stunning appearance but lacks the corresponding strength, it will only bring endless disasters. He followed the orders of Ares, the god of war, and built a simple cabin in the thorn forest, and also explored most of the nearby terrain. But at this time, he discovered an extremely critical problem. The closer you are to Mount Olympus, the greater your chance of being bathed in the glory of the gods, and the more creatures will be born. In the thorn forest, many forest elves, namely the nymphs, were born. They are kind by nature, gentle in character, have beautiful looks, and love to play in the mountains and fields. Even the gods would open the gates of Mount Olympus to them because of their beauty and allow them to serve the gods. The little young man who loved to eat children suspected that when Adonis arrived, these nymphs would be conquered by his unparalleled handsome face. At that time, his attempt to assassinate Adonis would be full of difficulties and obstacles, and he might even fail. He raised this issue when the god of war Ares contacted him again. After hearing this, the god of war Ares was silent for a moment, and then quickly gave an answer. The use of war is the result of deception. When the time comes, I will turn you into a wild boar running around in the mountains, so that no one will suspect you. That dagger will turn into sharp fangs, helping you stab it into that scumbag's chest, rip him open, and kill him forever. There was a strong sense of malice in his words, which showed how much the god of war Ares hated and loathed him. Okay, as you wish. The little young man who loved to eat children didn't want to be transformed into a wild boar, but thinking that wild boars have top abilities in all aspects, he agreed. Soon, under the control of the power of Ares, the god of war, he turned into an ugly and terrifying black wild boar with steel needles all over his body. This little young man who loves to eat children was transforming into an animal for the first time, and he was a little uncomfortable. So he began to exercise constantly, trying to adapt to this new body and run on 4 hooves. Soon, his figure appeared in streams, mountains, swamps, bushes and other places in the thorn forest. The female fairies in the forest, who were traveling in groups, laughing and talking in various poses, also discovered his strange wild boar, but did not take it seriously. Chapter 152. It is destiny and also fate. Under the instigation of the god of war Ares, Adonis successfully ran down from Mount Olympus and came to the thorn forest to hunt and vent his depression. He has a flawless face with delicate and straight lines, like a work carved by an artist. His face was well defined, with a high and broad forehead and long and straight eyebrows that perfectly framed his bright and lively eyes. Those eyes were like the blue sky, revealing wisdom and tenderness. His nose is tall and well proportioned, and the slightly upturned nose bridge adds to his handsome temperament. His lips are soft and attractive, and the slightly upturned angle exudes a confident and charming smile. Adonis' skin was white as snow, smooth and delicate, and seemed to glow from the kiss of the sun. His skin showed the radiance of health and youth, without a single blemish. His hair was velvety, thick and full, and the black strands shone with a deep luster in the sun. His hairline curved gracefully back, adding to his handsome charm. Oh, why do I have to stay in that gorgeous palace all the time? This world is so colorful, I really want to go and see it. Looking at the plants in the forest, Adonis frowned heartbreakingly and told about his troubles and distress. Hearing what he said, the elegant and otherworldly female fairies in the mountains and forests felt as if their hearts were melting. They felt sad for him and lamented for him. Poor Adonis, imprisoned in the palace of the goddess of love, must be very lonely. Poor Adonis, how I wish I could rescue him. Handsome Adonis, I wish he could be my husband. A group of charming fairies were looking at Adonis from a distance. Their eyes were moist like spring water and sparkling with the light of stars as they looked at his handsome face. But what they didn't notice was that not far from Adonis, a huge wild boar with dark skin was slowly approaching step by step. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. The little young man who loved to eat children muttered to himself. His steps were steady and firm, and his heart was filled with inexplicable excitement, as if a huge wave was surging. This is the murder of a great god. Even if this is a weak god with little power, and even a plaything kept in the home of Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty, he is still a god. No player has ever been able to do this, so he knows that as long as he can kill the god, it will inevitably cause a huge storm and make him a famous person. At that time, as long as he admits it, it will cause an uproar in reality and make him the focus of attention. Oh no, there's a vicious wild boar running towards Adonis. Damn you wild boar, you ugly creature, get away from Adonis. You lowly and inferior being, do not try to get close to Lord Adonis. For a moment, obscene words spewed out of the mouth of the pure-faced mountain fairy, and the change in attitude caught people off guard. The little young man who loved to eat children also heard these words and became very angry. Damn it, he still had a trace of mercy in his heart, but now I must kill him. How can you say such cruel words to a cute wild boar? Don't you know that this will break its heart? The little young man who loved to eat children went from approaching carefully step by step to running wildly. Adonis' beautiful back shone in the sun, unaware of the danger behind him. A huge and ferocious wild boar was behind him, staring at him with fierceness in its eyes, and approaching him at a very fast speed. When Artemis heard the heavy and rapid voice, his heart beat faster and he turned his head suddenly to look. A black figure directly blocked the sunlight, and only the fangs flashing with bloody light came into his sight. Time seemed to slow down, Adonis' heart was beating like a drum, and he jumped to the side with all his strength. However, a powerful restraining force firmly controlled his body, preventing him from making any swift escape moves. Getting closer and closer. The little young man who loved to eat children only felt that he was getting closer and closer, and that extremely handsome figure appeared in front of him. The fear on his face was unmistakable, like a beautiful painting. Even though his face was distorted with fear, it was still absolutely beautiful. This made Xiao Yang, who loved to eat children, feel a little jealous and a little regretful that such a perfect person was going to die at his hands. As the thought came to his mind, his sharp fangs pierced straight into Adonis's strong chest. Bright red blood flowed into the fair skin, and under the sunlight, it looked like crystal clear wine. No, why should such a perfect person be hurt like this? Oh, my poor Adonis, he was badly injured. Someone rescue him and take him away from that wild and vicious boar. A group of female fairies in the forest cried and talked non-stop, their delicate faces wet with tears, but they dared not come forward. The little young man who loved to eat children felt his weak breathing and was not reassured, so he made a few more holes in his chest. Bright red blood quickly flowed out of his body, forming a pool of red blood. His face was as pale as ice, and his breath gradually weakened and disappeared. Successfully, I succeeded in killing the god. Xiao Yang Gren, who loved to eat children, felt ecstatic. He didn't have much feeling towards Adonis. He treated these mythological worlds as games and the characters in them as NPCs, so he did not feel sad or afraid. It was a great honor for him to kill this most beautiful Adonis. On Mount Olympus, in the palace of the goddess of love and beauty, Aphrodite, who was indulging herself in a dissolute manner and enjoying many pleasures, suddenly felt a sharp pain in her heart. No, my dear Adonis. In a flash, Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty, noticed that Adonis had an accident. In her field, Adonis is like a shining jewel, shining brightly and making people want to treasure it. Her face was sad as she stumbled down Mount Olympus, her white bare feet stepping on the mud. She was wearing a light gauze scarf, and her graceful and seductive figure was looming. Soon, she came to the thorn forest, and under the guidance of many forest fairies, she came to the place where Adonis died. Looking at Adonis lying on the ground and the scarlet blood, her heart was bleeding. She unconsciously hugged Adonis and burst into tears. Chapter 153. On the other side of the forest, the little young man who loved to eat children was running desperately with his 4 strong legs. He knew that if he didn't run quickly, he would be caught by Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty, and then she would use countless methods to target him. He is immortal, but so are her dog-licking players. When the shape-shifting technique dissipated, he turned back into his true form and immediately exited the mythological world. After a dizzy spell, he opened his eyes and found himself in a familiar place, the school dormitory. I dare say that if I tell this experience to others, I'm afraid no one will believe it. Qin Mu rubbed his eyebrows, digesting the results. He was a college student, who, without any help, completed a magnificent act of killing gods in the world of Greek mythology. The little young man who loves to eat children is actually Qin Mu. The name was automatically matched by the system. He was too lazy to change it, so he has been using this one. However, after doing such a big thing, he decided to change his name for safety reasons. Lao Qin, how is it? Have you encountered any advanced tasks in the mythological world? Lu Bo asked from the side. Qin Mu lowered his eyes, sighed, and said helplessly, it's not so easy to encounter high-level tasks. I looked around and found that they were all low-level white tasks. But why are you asking this? Have you encountered this? No, it's a system reward you get after completing a high-level mission. This reward can be used to exchange for the next mission. Look online, and you'll see how many people want to buy system rewards. The prices have already gone up to sky-high levels. Lu Bo was extremely excited, gesticulating while talking. Qin Mu's eyelids jumped. In order to complete the 2 tasks, he had not come out for a long time. So many things happened in the real world. He hurriedly took out his cell phone and checked the latest news and information. You don't know until you see it. Once you see it, you will be shocked. The whole world is boiling. Whether it is the many countries in the east or the countries in the west, they all desperately send people to the mythological world in an attempt to occupy a place there. The new task system was discovered to have a reward function, and after it was posted online, it attracted countless people. In order to obtain high-level tasks, those wealthy and powerful family forces have offered various high rewards online. As long as you are willing to cooperate and seize the opportunity, you will have more money to spend than you can spend in your lifetime. Although the system does not support direct transactions, players can still let the person trigger the opportunity as long as they bring him with them. This is a huge loophole. After looking at the specific prices again, Qin Mu was also shocked. The price of purple tasks has been hyped up to 1 million, the price of orange tasks is in the tens of millions, and the price of gold tasks starts directly from a small goal. I didn't expect that just by bringing someone to try their luck, I would get so much money regardless of success. There are so many hidden rich people. Qin Mu smacked his lips and said in disbelief. You are absolutely right. The emergence of the mythical world has attracted all these deep-sea big fish out. Otherwise, how would ordinary people like us know that there are so many rich people? Lu Bo's face was full of envy and jealousy, and he really hoped that he could be a part of it. Qin Mu smiled but didn't say anything. He decided in his heart that he must not tell anyone the news that he had completed an orange task and a gold task. Once people find out, it will not only bring wealth, but more likely death. But then I thought, I can't stay in the world of Greek mythology anymore, I should see if there is any world that suits me. As soon as I opened the mobile forum, I started searching for news about the mythological world on the internet. There are countless brothers on Taiba, and they are a mixed bunch, and they know all kinds of information. The advantage of Huaxia's population means that people from Huaxia can be found in all 138 mythological worlds. The world of mountains and seas, the world of Buddha, the world of witches and gods, the world of Changshengdian, the world of Greek mythology, the world of Norse mythology, the world of Indian mythology, the world of Sumerian mythology, the world of Brahma mythology. From the well-known mythological worlds to some obscure or even little-known mythological worlds, there are exchanges in the forum. Qin Mu stared at them for a while, not knowing which one to choose. With his achievements, he can go to any world now. But he didn't want to waste these precious opportunities. After all, they were obtained by chance and were not easy to come by. Hey, Lao Qin, are you trying to change the world? Would you like to come to my world of exorcists? I can introduce you to a beautiful fox girl who will be your exorcist. Lu Bo said with a wink, revealing an expression that everyone could understand. Forget it. I don't want to do any shamanism. Qin Mu flipped through the posts about this world, read the cultivation methods, and immediately rejected them. Why don't you go to the mountain and sea world? That's the base of our Huaxia country. The human race and the wild beasts are fighting fiercely there. Once you get there, as long as you perform well, you will have a bright future. Zhou Shimin from our class joined a Qigong sect called Minjiahu Tianzong, and became very popular in the class group. Sect? It seems quite interesting. Unexpectedly, squad leader Zhou Shimin was so talented that she was noticed by a Qigong sect and accepted into the sect. You have to know that the Qi refining sect is very strict in accepting disciples and has strict screening procedures, so ordinary players can't get in at all. After some reading, he decided to go to the world of Norse mythology. In recent years, Norse mythology has been as popular as Greek mythology. There are also many messages on the internet saying that Norse mythology is very mysterious and not as simple as other worlds. William, the original light of the West and the inheritor of the original world, has explained that the mythological world he lives in has undergone changes. From the original many chaotic gods, they evolved into the 9 gods and giants in Norse mythology. Because of this, his original extraordinary and omnipotent power also disappeared. This caught Qin Mu's attention and he wanted to take a look. One of the reasons is that he stayed in the Western mythology world for a long time. When he moved to other places, the civilization, customs, habits, etc. were all different, and he had to adapt again. After making the selection, he went out for a meal and a walk, then Qin Mu began to enter the system. After entering, the first place you come to is not the mythological world, but a special space shrouded in grey fog. Right in front of the consciousness is a colorful light, similar to a game panel where selections and operations can be made. He clicked and entered the system, and a prompt for achievement unlocking appeared on his system panel. Ding! Congratulations to the player for completing the orange mission. You will be rewarded with 10,000 mission points, a character appearance modification card, a character name modification card, and an orange mission opportunity. Ding! Congratulations to the player for completing the gold mission. Reward, 100,000 mission points, a character appearance modification card, a character name modification card, 10 free trips to any mythical world, and a gold mission opportunity. Qin Mu looked at the rich rewards in front of him, his heart filled with indescribable joy. This is really like giving someone a pillow when they are sleepy. Chapter 154. Qin Mu was thinking about spending money to change to a new mythological world, but now it seems that he can be teleported directly for free. He suppressed the joy in his heart and calmly performed the operations to collect the rewards for the achievements of the two systems. After receiving it, another prompt popped up on the system. You are the first player to complete the orange/gold mission. Do you want to publish your achievement, whether? No. Qin Mu didn't even think about it and immediately nodded no. He doesn't really care about being in the spotlight, nor does he want to be in the spotlight. As for the God Slayer, he decided to keep it a secret for as long as he could. If he really dared to make it public, he believed that in the real world, there would be countless forces, big and small, looking for him. It would be fine if you are not found, but if you are found, it is hard to say whether you still have your freedom. Character name changed, Xiaoyan Grian who loves to eat children modified to, Zhang Tian. Qin Mu casually gave himself a low-key name. Zhang Tian, how simple and unpretentious. Zhang represents his act of hiding. Heaven represents his journey through the heavens. After making your selection, use the character appearance modification card again to modify your task. After a while, a handsome foreign man with regular features, a high nose bridge, blonde hair and blue eyes appeared. Qin Mu is quite satisfied with his face-pinching skills. Although this face cannot be said to be peerless, it is still quite attractive to girls. After making adjustments, I started jumping worlds. Ding! It's detected that you have a divine weapon. Do you want to exchange it? After the exchange, the new world will give you an item of equal value. If you don't want to exchange it, you can also temporarily store it in the warehouse and unlock it for you after you return to the world of Greek mythology. Qin Mu thought about it and clicked Do Not Replace. God-killing weapons are hard to find, and there is no way he can get one again. This short sword might be the first weapon in these mythological worlds that can allow mortals to kill gods. The world of Greek mythology is the world where he has stayed the longest, and he can't say for sure whether he will return in the future. What's more, he has 2 special mission opportunities. To a certain extent, he has a high chance of obtaining similar artifacts. Enter the world of Norse mythology. Whether? Yes. After Qin Mu made his choice, he felt dizzy and his consciousness seemed to turn into a torrent of consciousness, rushing into a vast world along with countless other white spots of light. Zhang Tian tried hard to open his eyes, and saw that in the vast world, there was a giant tree that covered the sky and supported the heaven and the earth. Is this the cosmic tree, the world tree, the tree of life? With this idea in mind, Zhang Tian came to the world of Norse mythology. Whoosh whoosh! A violent snoring sounded in Qin Mu's ears. Zhang Tian suddenly opened his eyes, adjusted to his new body, and turned to look at his surroundings. The thunder-like snoring made him realize that the environment he was in seemed a little bad. Looking up, I saw a huge figure in front of me. It was a monster with skin as hard as rock and a body lying on its side like a small hill. Damn, I was teleported to Jotunheim, the land of giants. What bad luck! Zhang Tian covered his face, thinking that his good luck might have been used up in the world of Greek mythology. He looked up a guide on the internet and found out that there are 9 worlds in Norse mythology. Among them, the Kingdom of Giants is the most terrifying and deadly world. This place is filled with brutal, bloodthirsty, savage, and terrifying giants. They have low IQs and are unwilling to communicate with humans. Many players had just entered the giant kingdom and were picked up by the giants and eaten as snacks before they could understand the situation. His current situation is not bad. The giant in front of him is a giant. As long as he is not disturbed, he still has a chance to escape. At that time, as long as you go through untold hardships, you will be able to reach Midgard where humans live, or Asgard where gods live. Zhang Tian held his breath, lifted his feet lightly, and ran towards the distance in an extremely agile and fast manner. This was his advantage. He had trained in combat in the Greek world, and this ability was ingrained in his bones, allowing him to skillfully use many techniques. These skills, even when used for escaping, will give you an advantage over other players. He used light steps and ran as fast as he could, and in a blink of an eye he was several kilometers away. It's not that he didn't want to keep running, but there was another giant in front of him and he had to find a cover to hide himself. This area is all desert, the land is extremely desolate, with only some dry weeds and huge rocks. Zhang Tian looked at the vast environment and almost thought he had come to a desert. After the giant who was tens of meters tall left, Zhang Tian breathed a sigh of relief and continued to run away. The giants in Norse mythology are tall and sturdy, and their strength can be directly seen from the size of their bodies. Some powerful giants are as strong as gods, and can even kill gods. If they were not so stupid, this world would not have been occupied by the Aesir. Zhang Tian ran all the way, hiding when he saw a giant, and continued running after he left, until the third day. This giant kingdom is too large, and the scenery has basically not changed. There are only rocks and weeds. No wonder they want to attack the gods' territory. Zhang Tian was too tired to complain. 3 days, 36 hours of unremitting efforts, allowed him to give up successfully. We can't just keep running in one direction like this. We have to make some changes. He decided to use other methods to break the dilemma. Whether to use the orange mission opportunity. After using it, there is a high chance of obtaining a new orange mission, and a small chance of directly obtaining an orange level reward. It was Zhang Tian's first time using it, and he was a little surprised to see the prompt. When he was surfing the internet, he didn't find any relevant information. After use, you may also get rewards directly. Zhang Tian couldn't wait to click and use it. In an instant, orange light burst out, condensing into an orange rainbow light, and turned into a meteor beside him. Zhang Tian's eyes lit up and he immediately understood how to use it. He followed the orange starlight and ran all the way, and never encountered any savage and terrifying giants again. Another day and night passed. The journey through mountains and rivers was too much for even the body that had practiced the chi refining technique to endure. Fortunately, when he was about to give up, an endless grassland appeared before him. This gave him hope to persevere, to continue running, and to follow the orange starlight all the way forward. Not long after, he was surprised to find that the orange starlight stopped in front of a wooden house and disappeared in an instant. The wooden house sits on the ground, as if it appeared out of thin air. The walls of the cabin are made of thick wooden planks that have been carefully sanded and treated to reveal the natural texture of the wood. The exterior of the cabin is also decorated with some peculiar wood carvings, such as patterns of plants, trees, animals, etc., which are carved into details such as the edge lines of the roof and the porch, perfectly blending nature and art. Hiss, is there a god in this wooden house? Zhang Tian looked inside warily, but the door of the wooden house was locked and there were no windows, so he could not see the scene inside it. All. Chapter 155. Boom boom boom. Zhang Tian knocked on the door cautiously, his eyes full of vigilance, his legs gathering strength so that he could jump back immediately if there was any danger. After waiting for a while, no one appeared in the room and no one responded. Zhang Tian thought about his orange opportunity, which he couldn't waste, so he made up his mind and pushed the door hard. With a creaky sound, the door was easily pushed open. Is it that simple? Zhang Tian was somewhat incredulous and confused. He looked at his hands, then at the door of the wooden house, and finally decided to push the door open and take the risk. As a player, he has the protection of a super god and will never die, which gives him great courage. If there was no time limit on his death, he would have been even bolder and would not have even hesitated. I took a step out and entered the room. It didn't seem as dangerous as I had imagined. Zhang Tian looked up and examined the various furniture and decorations in the room to see if there was anything special. Since the orange opportunity can bring me here, it means that there must be an item of equal value, or a person who issues the task. At first glance, it looks like an ordinary house, warm and harmonious, but upon closer inspection, many problems can be seen. The room is filled with strange shaped objects hidden in narrow corners, giving off an indescribable weird feeling, as if they were designed by the owner of the room to play a prank on people. Zhang Tian felt a little nervous, wondering if this was the residence of some evil god. Or maybe somewhere in the house, a powerful god is imprisoned, waiting for him to rescue it. Zhang Tian looked left and right, but after a thorough inspection, he did not find any basement or mechanism. This made him wonder if there was something wrong with the things in the house, a magical artifact comparable to the Orange Opportunity. Thinking of this, he glanced around again and fixed his eyes on a certain spot on the wall. On the east wall, there is a mask with a strange and bizarre shape. Judging from its placement and setting, it should be an item that the owner of the house likes more. Zhang Tian decided to take him away and regard it as his own gain. He tiptoed forward and with just a little effort he took off the strange human-shaped mask. The surface of the mask is extremely rough, as if it is made of birch wood, and it is covered with colorful paints, which is very strange. Zhang Tian tried it on his face, but there was no special change. But he did not intend to give up, because he felt that there must be some magical secret in this mask. When he wanted to take other items, his sixth sense gave him a warning of danger. Zhang Tian felt as if he was falling into an icy cave, as if death was on the edge. The feeling was so obvious, so real, that it made him stop and quickly leave the house. After leaving the house, when he turned around again and was about to take another look at the house, a shocking scene appeared. The cabin disappeared right before his eyes, as if it had never existed. In the realm of gods, Loki, the god of trickery and fire, who was meeting with the gods, exclaimed, and regardless of the gazes of the gods, he transformed himself into an eagle and flew towards the kingdom of giants. "You damn thief, you stole from my Loki!" But Zhang Tian had no idea what he was about to face. At this moment, he was observing the mask in his hand. After leaving the cabin, the mask also underwent miraculous changes, which surprised him greatly. What does this prove? It proves that what he took was right. The mask changed from a rough wooden craft to a delicate and smooth mask, but the lines painted on it outlined an absurd clown. I don't know what abilities this mask has, but I think it should be of a high level. Zhang Tian thought of the powerful and magical weapons in Norse mythology, and his heart couldn't help but get excited. The reason why this world has so many artifacts is thanks to the help and contribution of the dwarves. The dwarves in this world are transformed from maggots, but this does not affect their inherent blacksmithing skills. On the contrary, they dug up many minerals from the earth and used them to create various weapons and artifacts, thus pushing their craftsmanship to the pinnacle. These exquisite artifacts are loved by all the gods. For example, Thor's hammer is so popular that they can't let it go. Zhang Tian picked up the mask in his hand and put it against his face, ready to feel the power of the mask. At this time, an angry voice came from the sky. "How dare you, you despicable thief, steal the transformation mask of Loki, the god of trickery!" Zhang Tian looked up and saw a grey afterimage in the sky rushing towards him like a fighter jet. Before he could react, it had already fallen to the ground and turned into a handsome man. However, the cynicism and cunning between the man's eyebrows ruined his appearance a lot and reduced his points. "Loki!" Zhang Tian greeted him with a normal expression, but his heart was beating fast. "Is the mask Loki's? Could the wooden house be Loki's home? Inhuman? Why did you get my mask?" Loki said viciously with a puzzled look on his face. "My mask was put under a spell and enchantment." "How did you do it?" "Inhumans is what the Norse gods call the players. All we know is that they have an unknown origin, strange abilities, and are a race that came from nowhere after the creation of the world. They look like humans, but have incomprehensible behaviors. They love exploring and killing. Recently, they have changed and started to like helping others. Sometimes, they break into people's homes and rummage through their boxes. Sometimes, they communicate with people in a friendly and cordial manner. But in most cases, when they see monsters, or even strangers of their own race, they will draw their swords and fight to the death. The gods hated this race very much, but they could do nothing about them because after being killed, they would be reborn in the near future. Loki actually liked this race very much and did not hate it, simply because he found this race very interesting. However, when a stranger stole his transformation mask, his face became gloomy, with anger and rage lingering in his heart. The main thing was that he didn't know why this alien could pass through his layers of traps and obstacles, enter his room and get the mask. Seeing Loki so angry, his facial expression was as dark and terrifying as the dark clouds before a storm. Zhang Tian immediately thought of the reason, which was the Orange Mission opportunity, which directly lifted Loki's spell and magic. How should I tell him this? Just as Zhang Tian's eyes flickered and he was trying to make up an excuse, Loki spoke again. Don't try to deceive me. I am the great Loki. Tricks and deceptions are nothing in front of me. Tell me the truth. After hearing what Loki said, Zhang Tian realized that Loki was the famous god of trickery and it was difficult to deceive him. So I made up my mind and told him the truth. I took this mask directly from the house. I didn't see any of your spells or magic. Didn't you trigger the magic trap and spell? Loki asked unwillingly. He analyzed the demeanor, expressions, and movements of the strange man in front of him and found that he was not lying. But how is this possible? The entire god clan, and even the entire world, knew that Loki's treasure was placed in the most dangerous place. Chapter 156. On the plain, the two looked at each other. A cool breeze blew by, making Loki's golden patterned robe rustle. It's true. A god of your level should be able to notice that the traps and mechanisms have not been triggered. Zhang Tian waved his hands and said innocently. The hierarchy of gods in Norse mythology can be said to be rather vague and difficult to compare. However, they can be roughly ranked. Odin, the king of gods, is the strongest god and has been blessed by the fountain of wisdom and the world tree, so he ranks first. Following them are more famous gods such as Loki, the god of trickery, Thor, the god of thunder, and Tyr, the god of war, who rank second. The rest are third-rate cannon fodder gods, who are cannon fodder in the battle with giants. As a god who has existed since the beginning of the world, Loki possesses countless magic spells and spells. Of course he understands it, but he just doesn't admit it in his heart. He had made a promise that anything taken from his treasure would be given to anyone who could find it. But this so-called promise was just a joke on his part. He never thought that someone could actually take away what belonged to him from his treasure trove. This is Loki's pride and confidence. But today, his pride and self-confidence were not only shattered, but also ruthlessly trampled upon. His favorite phantom mask, which can transform into anyone's appearance, was also taken away. Seeing that Loki stood there without saying anything, Zhang Tian couldn't help but say. It's just a mask. How about I return it to you as long as you can send me to Midgard, where humans live, or Asgard of the gods? Do you know how rare this mask is and how many gods want to get it? When Loki heard the alien's light words, which belittled his mask as worthless, he became furious. However, as the god of trickery, he was cunning, evil, and quick-witted, and he quickly thought of a way to play tricks on the aliens. As long as you play a game with me and win, not only will I give you this magical mask, but I can also send you to any place. Zhang Tian had an idea and decided to play this game with Loki. He knew that Loki was the god of trickery, who was both good and evil in the early days and had not completely fallen into evil. At this time, he had not yet committed the despicable, shameless, vicious, and evil behaviors of the later period of the world. As long as Loki kept it fair, he wasn't afraid to play games. Okay, but you have to promise not to play any tricks. Of course, I, Loki, am the most fair and upright god. Loki patted his chest and assured. But his eyes flashed with a strange light, which made people very unbelieving. Tell me what game we are playing first and tell me the rules of the game. Zhang Tian suppressed his anxiety and said loudly. Let's play hide and seek. I'll hide and you'll find me. I can change into the form of any animal on this grassland. As long as you can find me, you win. Loki smiled sinisterly. After hearing his words, Zhang Tian frowned. The rules of the game of hide and seek are very loose, and Loki possesses all kinds of magic and spells. Once he becomes invisible or hides somewhere, he will not be found at all. No, if you turn into an ant or a blade of grass, how can I find you? Zhang Tian shook his head. So what do you say we should do? Zhang Tian immediately said, we must add a few rules. I'm just a mortal. I can't beat you at all. He was just waiting for Loki to say this. As long as a few rules were added, the difficulty of hide and seek would be greatly reduced. Okay, you say. Loki was still confident. First, you are not allowed to turn into a dead object, such as stone, soil, cloud, etc. Second, you are not allowed to become a being smaller than me. At least I can see it at a glance. 3. Don't run too far. If you go around in circles with me, I will definitely not be able to find you. As soon as the 3 rules were mentioned, Loki became happy. He clapped his hands and said, you aliens are still smarter. It's so fun to play with you. But I'll add one more thing, that is, you only have 3 chances. I hope you can find me soon, otherwise, I will let you know the consequences of stealing my Loki treasure. Without waiting for Zhang Tian to speak, Loki burst into laughter and disappeared. Zhang Tian took a deep breath and looked around with a cold gaze. He knew that his battle with Loki had just begun. Because of Loki's 3 rules, there are not many creatures that can be transformed, and the range is narrowed to the limit. Zhang Tian stood on a high place, looking around, looking for creatures larger than himself, so as to determine whether it was Loki. After watching for a while, I found a group of wild horses playing and frolicking on the grassland in the southwest direction. This group of wild horses is the only one that meets the requirements within a kilometer. Zhang Tian's eyes flashed with brilliance, and he came running towards him with big strides. He stood in front of the herd of horses and looked around, his eyes cutting through each majestic wild horse like a knife. The next moment, his gaze suddenly stopped and he shouted loudly. Loki, I see you. He used his chi-refining technique, and his voice was loud and clear, like thunder, which frightened the group of wild horses, causing them to run around in panic and neigh. Zhang Tian stared at the horses with sharp eyes, hoping to trick him out. But there were too many horses, more than 200 in total, with their hooves flying and running everywhere, and it was impossible to tell which one was Loki. Even so, Zhang Tian was still very sure that Loki was among the horses, but he was hiding too well. He could vaguely feel Loki's sarcastic and mocking gaze. That look was so calm, condescending, overlooking and mocking everything. This aroused Zhang Tian's competitive spirit and he determined to confront Loki. The flow of time in the mythological world is different from that in the real world, and he has enough time and energy to find Loki. In this way, day after day, he observed every wild horse at every moment, and even rode on one. These wild horses have tall statures, wild temperaments, and strong and slender bodies, allowing them to gallop freely on the grassland. Their fur is also varied, with different colors, including deep brown, snow white, and twilight black. After countless observations, Zhang Tian gradually fell in love with this group of wild horses. From time to time, he would ride one, cheering on the grassland and galloping between heaven and earth. Oh, oh, oh! Zhang Tian felt the vitality of the wild horse under him, galloping freely on the earth, pursuing freedom without restraint. He changed his strategy at this moment and prepared to compete with Loki in patience. See who is more patient and can stay on this grassland longer. Time flies and another month has passed. That day, he was riding a handsome wild horse. When he saw a herd of wild horses, he suddenly had an idea. Loki, you transformed into a whole herd of horses, am I right? The words echoed between heaven and earth for a long time, but there was no response. Zhang Tian sighed, he guessed wrong again. Did I use it once or twice? Chapter 157. On the vast grassland. Zhang Tian was riding a horse alone, facing the herd of horses. Just when he was regretting that he gave a wrong answer, a strange color flashed in the eyes of the horse under his butt. Transforming into a herd of horses? This is so interesting. Why didn't I think of this good idea? Loki, who turned into a mare, kicked his hooves, feeling a little restless. At this moment, he really wanted to run on the grassland to vent the joy in his heart. When Zhang Tian thought that he only had one last chance, he began to persuade and torture Yema in various ways every day. For example, singing a song with 5 incomplete tunes, talking to a certain horse non-stop, telling jokes to wild horses. The hope is that in this way, Loki will show up on his own initiative, thus achieving the effect of defeating the enemy without fighting. Unfortunately, this method did not work and Loki still did not show up. This situation continued for a year until the spring of the following year. With the arrival of spring, all things come to life. The wild horses also began to reproduce. At this time, Zhang Tian also showed an evil smile on his face. He didn't believe that Rocky could bear to mate with a wild horse. Just then, a colorful glow streaked across the sky, and a tall, handsome divine horse with smooth fur came into the herd of wild horses. It is also driven by its own desires to vent its lust among the horses. The horse was seen walking with its head held high and walking with pride, passing through a group of ordinary wild female horses and coming to a mare with the same outstanding appearance. Zhang Tian saw the mare at first sight, it was his favorite one. The hair on the body is thick and smooth. You can feel its softness and silkiness when you gently touch it with your palm. The big, sparkling eyes make him look like he has spirit. His posture is graceful and agile, and he feels very comfortable when he runs. No, you damn stallion, don't come over here. Amid Loki's helpless wailing, the divine horse stopped, lowered its proud head, and began to rub ears with the mare that Loki had transformed into. After a moment, the divine horse felt that the time was right and came behind the mare transformed by Loki and put its front hooves on it. At this moment, the thought of running away came into Loki's mind for the first time. It's horrible. Oh, no. Before he could think it through, Shenma had already entered combat mode. Loki raised his head and neighed, tears streaming down his face, in memory of his chastity. Zhang Tian looked at this scene but didn't have any big thoughts. It was just because the Shenma was so huge that it was too much for these medium-sized wild horses to bear. Most of his attention and gaze at this moment were focused on the stallion. Especially for those stallions that are not in heat and do not communicate with mares, strict scrutiny is required. But even though he observed so carefully, he still couldn't find any trace of Loki. That's impossible. Isn't this guy among the horses? Or does he have such a strong taste that he doesn't care whether it's a human or a horse? When Zhang Tian fell into self-doubt and started to check if he had missed anything. The belly of his favorite mare in the herd was growing rapidly. Karina, what's wrong with you? Zhang Tian caressed her with concern. Karina was the name Zhang Tian gave her. Zhang Tian loved this horse very much. He thought Karina had bloating and tried every means to cure her. But after a few days, he noticed something was wrong. The horse's belly was growing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Is it because of Shenma? Zhang Tian was not a novice either. He knew that some creatures with divine blood could give birth quickly. For example, some gods in Greek mythology became pregnant in the morning and gave birth in the afternoon. This is also the real reason why they dare to be unrestrained, indulge in love, and give birth to hundreds of offspring. They don't care about giving birth to offspring at all. After all, it is easy to conceive. In just 1 week, Karina was due to give birth. Zhang Tian was equally nervous. He had never delivered a horse before and had no experience in this field. As dusk falls, the sky and the earth darken, and the earth falls into silence. And on the grassland, in a small cave about 7 or 8 meters high. The cave was simple, with a pile of leaves on the ground forming a small nest, and a pile of burning dry grass next to it to raise the temperature inside the cave. Tisk, tisk, tisk. Loki screamed and wailed continuously in agony, and while enduring the suffering, he had to avoid revealing himself. It hurts so much. Giving birth is really painful. I can't stand it anymore. The mare Karina, transformed by Loki, was just an ordinary horse with a weak physique, and it was difficult for her to bear an offspring with the blood of a divine horse. He originally wanted to find an opportunity to secretly transform back to his original form and remove the baby from his belly. But Yiren Zhangtian was exceptionally kind to him, taking him wherever he went and even prepared to help with childbirth, which made him extremely desperate. In a daze, he felt a stomachache and the baby in his belly began to go into labor. Hurry up, come on, the baby is about to be born. Zhang Tian held her hands and encouraged loudly. At this moment, he was extremely excited, as it was the first time he saw the birth of a new life. Push harder and the head will come out. Put on a little more strength, and half of the body will come out. Come on, it's almost over. Great, the pony is all out. Zhang Tian looked at the weak mare and the wet colt lying beside her with great joy. At this moment, something happened that made him even happier. Loki was also relieved when he heard the foal was born. He had never suffered so much in his life. Just give birth to it. As soon as these words were spoken, the cave fell silent. The smile on Zhang Tian's face suddenly stopped, and he stared blankly at the mare Karina in front of him. I know the tricks played by Western gods, but no one told me that they would be so tricky. He raised his trembling finger and pointed at Loki's incarnation, the mare Kalina. Loki. Saying these words seemed to drain all the strength out of him. Zhang Tian felt mixed emotions as he looked at his hands. I am not clean anymore. I delivered Loki myself. One exploding reality after another was placed before him. Fortunately, he was strong enough in his heart and had a strong ability to adapt, so he quickly recovered. He also knew that the Western gods were in chaos, but when he encountered this scene of corruption, it was also a shocking shock to his soul. The cave, where the fire was flickering, fell into silence again. Haha, I didn't expect you to find out. Loki smiled awkwardly, trying to ease the atmosphere in the cave. The next moment, he transformed from a mare that had just given birth into a handsome man with blonde hair and blue eyes and a heroic demeanor. After many years, Loki appeared in front of Zhang Tian. Again. Chapter 158. Loki, the god of trickery, it's time to fulfill your promise. Zhang Tian's eyes were as deep as an ancient well. He stared at Loki intently, extremely coldly, as if he wanted to see through him. His hands were shaking and sticky from delivering Loki's baby. Of course. I, Loki, am a man of my words and will complete what I promised. Loki waved his hand and said easily, but in the next moment, a sly smile appeared on his face again. Can you please promise me not to tell anyone about this? There was a hint of pleading in his tone and his eyes were so pitiful that it was impossible to refuse. If there were any other possibilities, he wouldn't want to beg the stranger in front of him. But Loki's curiosity got the better of him, and he learned in depth that the Inhumans would be resurrected after death and could not be killed. Even when they know certain secrets and are killed, other extraordinary people will know them at some point in time and spread the news everywhere. Loki was afraid that the alien in front of him would publicize his embarrassing stories, so he communicated with him in a friendly manner. When Zhang Tian saw that the famous and infamous Loki was begging him, he suddenly felt that the slime on his hands was not dirty anymore. An unconcealable smile appeared on his face, and he looked at Loki, scanning him up and down. Loki's heart skipped a beat and he thought to himself that this was not good. Isn't this the kind of smile that you would show when you want to play a trick on someone or when you have something on someone to blackmail them? I hope this guy won't make any excessive demands. Zhang Tian's eyes were burning as he looked at Loki with an extremely happy smile. Oh no, this guy doesn't want me to become a beauty, let him XX. Why is he still silent? Is he trying to turn me into a horse? Or, give up your reputation and run away? Thoughts emerged in Loki's mind one after another, and in an instant, he had thought of dozens of them. The reason why he thought of these things was simply because he discovered that some of the Inhumans had the ability to attract a lot of attention. No matter which race they are, they will be attracted to them and become their objects. They accepted everyone, whether they were beautiful elves, dwarves, or even disgusting monsters in the mud. If the giants weren't too big and the gods couldn't get through, they might have been killed by them. What's even more outrageous is that they seem to have no reproductive isolation and basically all the babies will be born successfully once they get pregnant. Zhang Tian's intentions were not as evil as Loki thought. He just thought that the gods in Norse mythology did not rely entirely on divine power and artifacts. Most gods possess extraordinary magic and spells. As the god of trickery and fire, Loki must know and be proficient in many mysterious and powerful magic spells. Now that he has the leverage over me, can he make a deal and drain all the stocks from him? A bet is a bet. If you want to shut me up, you need something else. Zhang Tian stared at Loki and said. I know you are proficient in many subtle spells and terrible magic. Teach them to me. That's it. My virginity is saved? I don't have to have any more children. Loki let out a long sigh and felt very happy. I didn't expect Zhang Tian to make such a simple request. It was really unexpected. Given his character, he looks at other people from his own perspective, so he thinks Zhang Tian is equally despicable and evil. Wise Loki will meet your request. I hope you can keep your promise. Loki raised his head proudly, with disdainful eyes, standing proudly in the cave. Seeing Loki become that arrogant god again, Zhang Tian was a little unhappy and nodded his chin. Loki, what about your lovely horse son? On the haystack, there was a pony with smooth and shiny hair lying on 8 legs, trying hard to stand up. Loki's face froze, like a frosted eggplant, and he quickly turned his head away. I'll give this thing to you. Don't tell anyone else that it was born by me, Loki. When the two of them weren't looking, a flash of anthropomorphic sadness flashed across Pony's eyes. It is the descendant of Shenma, with pure and noble bloodline. It is born with wisdom that is no less than that of an adult. Therefore, it is very sad to see its mother abandon it. What's the point of getting one for nothing? Zhang Tian thought about it and immediately agreed. Okay, I will raise the pony from now on. But you give him a name. Just call him Sleipnir. Loki said a name without thinking. The name means gliding, which is very ordinary, indicating that Loki has no feelings for him, and even dislikes him. The sun was shining, the weather was clear, and a few white clouds were floating in the sky. What? Your magic and spells can only be released with the help of the world tree. Zhang Tian frowned and said very dissatisfiedly. This was not quite what he had imagined. These magics and spells rely on the Lord of the world, so wouldn't they be useless if the world changed? Most magic spells are like this, using the world tree as a link to release infinite power. Loki looked confused and felt that the aliens were even more unpredictable than him. I don't want this. Is there any magic spell that doesn't rely on the world tree? Zhang Tian refused and asked what he wanted. He didn't want to stay in the world of Norse mythology forever, so naturally he hoped to learn some general magical knowledge. The Great Lord of Grey Mist, the supreme being who constructed the channel to the mythical world, gave him the Qi refining technique that is universal to all realms, which is the type he wants most. If you can't use it in another world, then it would be a waste of time to learn it. If that's the case, he might as well practice more Qi refining techniques. The Qi refining technique is divided into 9 levels, and he has now reached the 4th level. The first 3 levels strengthen the body and make one powerful, the middle 3 levels allow one to breathe in and out internal energy and fly in the air for a short period of time, and the top 3 levels strengthen the soul, allowing one to leave the body and wander in the void. These 3 layers represent essence, energy, and spirit respectively. Some people speculate that as long as one can practice to the ultimate peak, the 3 elements can be unified to break the barrier between humans and gods, and becoming a god or immortal is just a matter of thought. My transfiguration can be performed without the help of the world tree. If you are willing, I will teach it to you. Loki gritted his teeth. In order to keep it secret, he decided to hand over his most powerful spell. Transfiguration can also be used in conjunction with my transformation mask, making it impossible for anyone to see any flaws. Transfiguration. Zhang Tian suddenly had an idea and immediately nodded in agreement. He knew that Loki could transform into various animals in order to tease and play with the gods and giants. Okay, you just need to teach me and send me to Asgard, and then the matter between us will be over. After hearing Zhang Tian's words, Loki immediately became energetic and explained his original transformation. Technique. Chapter 159. Transfiguration is a mysterious and powerful magical ability that allows the caster to change the form and appearance of an object or creature. Through transfiguration, objects or creatures can be transformed into other forms, thereby gaining new characteristics and abilities. In other words, as long as the imitation is accurate, you can directly possess some of the abilities and strengths of the imitator. The performance of a polymorph spell usually requires the caster to have a deep understanding of the target in order to be able to accurately mimic and reshape its form. For example, Loki often transforms into several animals. It's not that he doesn't want to transform into other animals, but each one requires in-depth research. Every kind of research requires a certain amount of time and effort. Under the influence of transfiguration, a person can transform into an animal, plant, object, or other creature. This deformation may be temporary, lasting for a period of time and then returning to its original appearance, or it may be a permanent change. Transfiguration can change appearance, size, color, texture, and even bone structure, giving the target the characteristics and abilities of the chosen form. After hearing this, Zhang Tian was very excited. He could change his appearance permanently without having to use the appearance card to reshape his face. Seeing the joy on Zhang Tian's face, Loki warned, transfiguration needs to be used with caution. Abuse may lead to unpredictable consequences. Zhang Tian nodded perfunctorily, not caring at all. Loki was not aware of the player's immortality and could simply ignore any consequences or damage. Just like that, within a few days, he mastered the art of transfiguration and became like Loki. It's just that his skills are not very good. It's difficult to draw a tiger even if he draws the skin and bones. When the two of them stand together, they always look shoddy. However, Zhang Tian quickly found a way to make up for it. He picked up the magical changing mask and put it on his face. A cool and smooth touch comes from the mask, which feels as comfortable as jelly against the face. According to Loki, this mask was made of the skin of a shapeshifter and the skills of the dwarf's top blacksmith. It's amazing. Just from the appearance, it's basically impossible to tell which one is real and which one is fake. Zhang Tian smiled, very happy. This mask is very useful. It allows him to transform into any god in Norse mythology. Then he can easily obtain beautiful women from the gods, magical weapons, magical fruits, and magical waters. In the world of Greek mythology, he was able to accomplish the feat of killing gods by turning into a wild boar, which shows the practicality of this spell. Now that you have learned the art of transfiguration, all that remains is to send you to Asgard. Seeing that Zhang Tian had learned the art of transfiguration, Loki immediately spoke. He ran away from the meeting of gods and wasted so much time here. He didn't know what the situation was like among the gods now. It turns out that with the support of the gods, Asgard built a beautiful and prosperous city. But this beautiful city is close to the giant kingdom, without any obstacles or support, and it is easy to be attacked by giants and fall into war. At this time, a mysterious engineer appeared and claimed that he could build a tall wall for Asgard to prevent the invasion of the giant kingdom. His request was very simple, that is, he wanted the three goddesses, the sun goddess, the moon goddess and the goddess of beauty. As a resourceful god, Loki immediately thought of a trick, which was to agree and let the engineer do it first. The task must be completed within an impossible time. If it cannot be completed, the gods will punish him. In this way, not only do you not have to pay any compensation, you can also get a huge city wall for free. While they were discussing how to deny it later, he noticed that the transformation mask had been taken away and he ran out immediately, so he had no idea what happened next. As long as you send me to Asgard, we will be even. Zhang Tian nodded and agreed with him. During this time, he discovered that Loki was not as evil as the legend said, but just had the mentality of a child. In Norse mythology, without Loki, it would be like the West without Jerusalem. It was because Loki gave birth to 3 children who destroyed the world by himself that Ragnarok came. Loki was surprisingly happy to hear Zhang Tian's answer. He couldn't wait to leave this alien who had ridden on him for more than a year and delivered his baby. Loki always felt an indescribable awkwardness when he was next to Zhang Tian. The two of them walked together, and there was also the grown-up little divine horse beside them, carrying Zhang Tian on its 8 legs. The little Shenma is worthy of its Shenma bloodline. It runs like the wind and travels thousands of miles a day without any problem. Soon, they arrived at the border between Asgard and the giant kingdom. I saw a vast and boundless huge city wall standing on the earth. From a distance, it looked like a winding, twisted dragon crawling on the ground. And in the middle part, there is an obvious gap. Loki saw the gap and shouted excitedly, "The engineer didn't complete the task, so you don't need to pay him." This is all Loki's credit. Having said that, he ran forward. In order not to lose him, Zhang Tian could only pat the little horse and signal it to follow. The little divine horse neighed, raised its head, moved all 8 legs, and galloped away. From a long distance, Zhang Tian saw several gods that looked like the gods in the legend. Among them are Odin with an eye patch covering one eye and wearing golden armor, Thor, the god of thunder, who is as wild and burly as a lion, and Tyr, the god of war, who is strong, upright, and majestic. At their feet lay a huge headless corpse with its head smashed. "Hey, my brothers, my nephews, it seems that you have punished this shameless engineer." Loki ran over like the wind, leaving a trail of after-images in the air. "Loki, where have you been?" Thor frowned and said in an unhappy tone. The other gods also looked at them with disdain and disgust. It can be seen that the gods of the Aesir actually do not like Loki. It could be because Loki has pure frost giant bloodline, or it could be that he hates Loki's unrestrained, childlike personality. Zhang Tian took a look from a distance and immediately understood Loki's embarrassing position among the Aesir. Asking him to take himself to Asgard doesn't seem to be a reliable idea. Staring at the headless corpse at the feet of Thor, the god of thunder, Zhang Tian had already thought of his own fate. He made up his mind, performed transfiguration, transformed into a flea, and burrowed into the little horse's hair. He only hoped that these gods did not discover him and that he could sneak into Asgard safely. Once he gets there, he will be like a fish entering the sea, with nothing stopping him. With his newly learned shape-shifting technique, he can obtain countless rare treasures, magical fruits, holy water and the like. Maybe the gods' eyes were all on Loki and they did not notice Zhang Tian's existence. Chapter 160. Under the towering city walls, blood was flowing. The gods were huge in stature, standing on the earth, looking at Loki with serious eyes. "Loki, where have you been going without paying attention to the meeting of the gods?" asked Odin, the most ancient, noble, and powerful king of the gods. "My dear brother, I just suddenly remembered something happened at home, so I went back home." Loki made up a lie to deal with Odin. This ridiculous lie made the gods hate him even more, but they tolerated him because he was the sworn brother of the god King Odin and his wisdom was outstanding. "Oh, what's the matter with that 8-legged horse?" Odin's sharp and determined eyes saw the little divine horse galloping towards him at a glance. 8-legged horse, such a strange breed has never appeared in the world. But just looking at its appearance and aura, you can tell that it is a rare and magical horse. The scent of this horse is very familiar, very much like the engineer's horse. Thor searched for a moment and finally thought of the familiar source. The headless corpse under your feet is that of the engineer. Originally, the gods gave the engineer 3 months to complete the task, thinking that he would not be able to complete it, but they did not expect that he actually had a magical horse. The divine horse was so strong and agile that it could pull huge rocks that even the gods could not pull, and built this towering and huge city wall. Just when the gods were anxious, the divine horse disappeared and never returned, delaying the construction of the city wall. The engineer delayed the construction schedule, but thought that 90% of the construction had been completed, so he could be paid less and the most beautiful goddess Freya could be given to him. How could the gods agree to this? Freya was the goddess of love and beauty, with such beauty that even the gods were captivated by her. The engineer was negotiating with the king of gods Odin in front, when the god of thunder Thor came quietly from behind and hit him with a hammer, causing his brain to burst and die. This little pony has the blood of the engineer's divine horse. It looks heroic, strong, and powerful. It is definitely not an ordinary one. Loki, where did you find it? Thor was a little confused, thinking that Loki ran out just for it. The foal neighed and shouted loudly, "Loki is my mother. He turned into a mare and gave birth to me." The gods had not expected that the foal was so intelligent and could speak in human language, nor had they expected to hear such explosive news from it. They were all stunned. The first one to react was Odin, the king of gods. He was knowledgeable and knew his sworn brother very well. This is indeed something he can do. "Loki, my brother, I didn't expect you to do this for the gods." Odin strode forward and hugged Loki tightly. "The Aesir will never forget your contribution." The gods beside him, such as Thor, the god of thunder, and Tyr, the god of war, looked at Loki with complicated expressions, showing shock, fear, surprise, and understanding. His body was extremely honest and quietly moved away from Loki. Loki, whose unspeakable secret was revealed, felt as if struck by lightning. He stood there in a daze, and it took him a while to recover. An awkward smile appeared on his face, and he stammered, "Yes, this is all for the glory of the gods, for the Aesir, I am willing to make this sacrifice. I turned into a beautiful mare and seduced the engineer's horse in order to delay his construction deadline." When he spoke, his voice was light and vague, as if his soul had flown away to who knows where. Seeing that the situation was not good, the flea that Zhang Tian transformed into bit the foal hard, making it scream in pain. The foal's cry successfully brought Loki back to his senses and reminded him of the unfinished task. "By the way, we also need to send the Inhumans to Asgard." Loki suddenly had an idea and thought of this. Afraid that the foal would reveal Zhang Tian's existence, he immediately walked up to the foal and pinched its mouth. "My great brother, you are the noble king of the gods. I will give this divine horse to you as a mount. I have already chosen a name for him. You can call him Sleipnir. I will send it to Asgard now and keep it in your palace." Before Odin could reply, Loki impatiently put the foal on a rope, covered its mouth, and ran towards Asgard. Everyone looked at his strange appearance and didn't think much about it, because Loki was such a bizarre and unpredictable existence in their hearts. "The wall work has been completed. I'm going to inspect the 9 realms and won't return to Asgard for the time being. Do you want to come with me?" Odin, the king of gods, put on a black cloak, like an ordinary old man. "Father God, I am worried about you traveling alone in the 9 realms." "Let me go with you," said Thor, the god of thunder. The god of war Tyr was silent for a moment, then spoke up. "The giant kingdom has been making moves recently, so I'd better join you." After making the agreement, the 3 powerful gods set out together and began their tour of the 9 realms. On the other side, Zhang Tian hid in the body of a pony and came to Asgard. Asgard is where the gods live. It has been carefully built, with poetic scenery and 4 seasons like spring. Everything is so beautiful and natural. Loki's mad rush brought him to the palace where the gods gathered. Among these magnificent palaces, the most luxurious and splendid palace stands in the middle. Zhang Tian could tell at a glance that it was the Golden Palace, the palace of the god King Odin, where his gold and treasures were hidden. Looking at this luxurious scene, he was ready to make a big move. He secretly jumped off the foal and hid in the grass when Loki wasn't noticing. In a flash, the shape-shifting technique was activated and it turned into a grey little mouse, which did not attract the attention of the gods at all. Compared with the gods in Greek mythology, the gods in Norse mythology can be described as truly primitive and barbaric, just like reckless men. In the beginning, they fought purely with hand-to-hand combat, and later with magical weapons. They did not take magic and spells too seriously or develop their use. To give a simple example, these gods cannot fly and need flying cloaks to fly. It's strange that a god who created the world and all living things can't even fly. However, Zhang Tian did not care about these details, but instead considered how to plan to obtain the greatest benefits in Asgard. Just as he was wandering around, hiding during the day and coming out at night, after a week, he suddenly discovered that the king of gods Odin had not returned. The several gods who followed him did not come back together. Odin, the king of the gods, is not at home, and I know how to transform. I can change into Odin's appearance. That means I equals Odin. Asgard's treasure house will open to me easily. Thinking of this, Zhang Tian's breathing became rapid and his heart was pounding. As long as I have the courage, I can empty the treasure house of Odin and even the gods. Chapter 161. A white light flashed in the dense grass, and Odin, the king of gods, walked out stealthily. Not bad, with the mask, the realism is instantly maximized. Zhang Tian looked at his new appearance, with its strong back and majestic figure, and couldn't help but touch it. As long as I pay attention to my words, actions, and demeanor, these gods who spend their days eating, drinking, and having fun will definitely not notice. During this period of time, Zhang Tian had already fully understood the living habits and behaviors of the Aesir. Unlike the Greek gods, they are more barbaric and brutal, behave in a crude manner, and their brains are not often used, resulting in them not being very smart. He strongly suspected that the reason these gods were able to dominate the world was because the giants were even more stupid. He transformed into Odin and walked along the road with a swagger, walking like a dragon or a tiger, looking very majestic. When the gods and servants who passed by saw him, they bowed their heads in salute and greeted him respectfully. Zhang Tian just nodded slightly and stared at them with his sharp eyes, making them dare not look at him. In this way, he deceived countless gods and servants and came to the magnificent and luxurious palace belonging to Odin. As soon as I walked in, a stunningly beautiful woman with a graceful figure came towards me. I saw that she had a stunning face, and under her beautiful snow-white swan neck, her towering breasts were faintly visible hidden under her white dress. She has a slim and graceful figure, a slender waist, and perfect female curves that have attracted countless people's attention. The temperament is noble and elegant, so extraordinary that people can't help but worship it. Zhang Tian watched her getting closer and closer and couldn't help swallowing. This beautiful goddess is the wife of the god King Odin, the beautiful, generous, noble and holy Queen Frigg. He was somewhat worried, not knowing whether Loki's transformation could be hidden from Odin's bedmate, the beautiful Queen Frigga. But soon, he breathed a sigh of relief, felt relieved, and dispelled his worries. He discovered that this noble and elegant Frigga did not have a very good brain, or rather, her memory was not very good. When he chose Norse mythology, he also learned about the gods. When he was reading the book, he saw a record that said the queen had a poor memory, but he didn't expect it to be so poor. Let's just say, she forgets what I just said to her the moment I turn my head. She would only reluctantly remember things that were extremely important and repeatedly emphasized. Because of this, Frigga's appearance dispelled all of Zhang Tian's concerns and he began his own plan. Dear Frigga, I just dealt with the invaders and now I need to replenish my energy. Go and order the servants to prepare delicious food. Frigga nodded, inadvertently revealing a bit of her fair skin on her chest. She walked with graceful steps, called the servants at the door, and ordered them to prepare delicious food. But when she returned to Zhang Tian, a trace of confusion appeared in her eyes, and she had completely forgotten what had just happened. Zhang Tian's eyelids jumped, and he quickly stopped her from calling for help. As the queen of Norse mythology, she has such ridiculous shortcomings. Zhang Tian doesn't know what to say. After a while, the servants brought countless delicious dishes and rare fruits for Zhang Tian to eat. Zhang Tian was not polite at all. He opened his mouth and started eating in big mouthfuls, not paying any attention to his image. Frigga next to her had a poor memory, so even if she saw it, she would forget it after a while. These foods have an endlessly lingering aroma and contain the rich energy of heaven and earth. As he chewed and swallowed, his intestines moved constantly, digested and absorbed, his qi refining technique level was also rapidly improving. Soon, with the infusion of these abundant and pure energies, his bottleneck was broken by the violent energy like a flood. In an instant, he was promoted to the level of a 5th-level Qigong practitioner. After the promotion, he patted his stomach and felt that he could continue eating. In a short while, all the food on the table was eaten up. The life of a god king is truly wonderful. Just as he burped comfortably, Frigga's beautiful body, as white as jade and full of elasticity, leaned over. Zhang Tian was a little stiff for a moment. In his memory, he was still a virgin who had not experienced S*X. How could he resist such a stunning, noble, and beautiful woman lying on top of him? The curvy and seductive body immediately made him distracted and his heart beat wildly. Phew, Frigga, I just finished my meal and it's not suitable for me to exercise. Zhang Tian calmed himself down and said stutteringly. But Frigga, who was standing by, seemed not to have heard anything and just took off all her white clothes. A tall, graceful, plump, and upright body threw itself into Zhang Tian's arms, allowing him to fully enjoy its softness and sweetness. Buzz! Zhang Tian got hot-headed and was possessed by Cao's spirit, and did something that made him regretful. Afterwards, he sat up from the bed in shock, recalling the endless joy. Alas, Cao thief misled me. A delicate hand passed through his shoulder, caressing his strong and muscular chest muscles, pulling him back into the land of tenderness again. For more than half a month, he was addicted to women and couldn't extricate himself. Fortunately, he was determined and finally broke free. Hey, beauty misleads me. After getting rid of the gods, he opened the task search system and tried to accept the task in the identity of the god King Odin. But he soon discovered that this approach was ridiculous and had no effect at all. Under the gaze of King Odin, the gods did not dare to look at him directly, let alone ask him to do anything. When he looked at the gods, they would always bow their heads in submission. When he looked at goddesses or female giants, some goddesses would always give him ambiguous responses. He was selective and completed the tasks of several goddesses and female giants, and received generous rewards. But his price was enormous. He covered his sore waist and left the palace of a charming and sexy goddess with a painful look on his face. If her husband hadn't been coming back, the goddess would have kept him company for a few more days and wouldn't have let him leave. Zhang Tian had a hard time expressing his pain. He was just a figurehead and could not win the fight, so he had to sell his body and chastity. In his system, dozens of blue tasks, a dozen purple tasks, and 3 orange tasks have been completed. He looked at the densely packed list of completed tasks and felt completely satisfied. He no longer wanted to take on any crappy tasks. Taking advantage of his free time, he decided to take a walk and visit other places in Asgard to look for treasures that might be helpful to him. Far to the north, in the land of fire, where fires burn all year round. Qin Mu's clone opened his eyes that were shining with golden light, glanced towards Asgard, and then slowly closed them. Beside him, countless figures of humans, elves, dwarves, gnomes, appeared, ignoring the raging fire, and walked towards his position unswervingly. 7 years have passed, and the god King Odin still hasn't returned. Zhang Tian remains calm and is not afraid. He had already found out that when the god King Odin toured the 9 realms, he would be gone for more than 10 years, even decades, and would not contact the gods. Yiren, you are here. You damn BD, you turned into Odin. So it's you. I was wondering why Odin, as the king of gods, would accept everyone and sleep with all the goddesses of the Aesir. Loki, the god of trickery, scolded angrily. Chapter 162. Click. Zhang Tian's heart skipped a beat and he turned around and looked at Loki, who was running towards him with a dry laugh. Isn't this my dear brother Loki? I think of you so hard. Zhang Tian, who was transformed into the king of gods Odin, forced a smile on his face and ran towards Loki, hugging him tightly. Loki, if you tell anyone about me, you'll be dead. Zhang Tian looked happy, as if he had really seen his own brother. But he threatened Loki in a vicious tone. You brought me here. If the gods knew, they would definitely take it out on you. When Loki heard this, the rage and anger in his heart seemed to be extinguished by water, and he stood still. After a while, Loki recovered and said to Zhang Tian coldly, you must leave Asgard as soon as possible and swear never to tell anyone. At this time, he deeply regretted letting the alien in and teaching him the art of transfiguration. This gave him the opportunity to sleep with Odin's lovers and wives, and even other goddesses and giantess. He could already foresee that many of the male gods would be wearing green hats on their heads, with anger in their eyes, wanting to tear him apart. Well, I have completed my tour of Asgard. I have tasted everything I should have tasted and played enough. I will leave with you now. During these 7 years, Zhang Tian practiced diligently, slept on straw and ate abalone, and consumed large amounts of various energy-containing divine fruits, holy waters, and delicious dishes. Such hard work allowed him to break through to the 8th level of Qi Refiner. If this news were to spread outside, I'm afraid the whole country would be shocked and in uproar. Be it the inheritor of the mountain and sea world, the representative of Qi Refiners Luo Yuan Kong, or the old players in the Greek mythology world, none of them have reached the 7th level of Qi Refining. Most of them are stuck at the peak of the 6th level of Qi Refining. The 7th level of Qi Refining means that one has entered the soul realm through practice and can be said to be a demigod on earth. What does this mean? It means that he has already walked out of his own path of Qi training. As long as he follows the steps and practices to the extreme, Zhang Tian can break the boundary between gods and humans, integrate his essence, energy, and spirit into one, and become a god or an immortal in just a thought. Staying in Asgard any longer won't help much, as what's left are not various magical fruits or elixirs that can help improve. That was why he agreed so readily and followed Loki to leave Asgard. He thought that after leaving Asgard, he could visit several other worlds. Lively and beautiful elves, warm and generous dwarves, cunning and greedy gnomes, hideous and ugly monsters. The Nordic world is divided into 9 worlds, each with different features, attracting waves of players to explore. Unfortunately, the players are not very strong, exploration is too difficult, and they are often attacked by other races. With their strength, they can only defeat humans and short dwarfs. As for the other races, they are either protected by the gods or cannot be defeated at all. Oh no, Thor is back. As he was rushing towards the Rainbow Bridge, Loki saw his tall and burly figure at a glance, and his face was filled with panic. What are you afraid of? He can't find me. Zhang Tian also saw Thor, the god of thunder, but at this time he had transformed into other appearances and was not afraid of being discovered by Thor. What do you know? His wife, Sif, the goddess of land and harvest, is a big mouth and loves to talk about other people's affairs. Loki said anxiously. When Thor returns home, Sif will definitely tell him about this. Then you and I can just prepare to be hunted down. Zhang Tian also remembered that Thor's wife Sif was indeed always talking about other people's privacy and secrets when they were in bed. Who knows, she might even exaggerate and tell Thor the story of Odin sleeping with people all over Asgard. Or else let's go all out and give her to. Zhang Tian showed a ruthless expression, his palm was like a knife, and he gestured to Loki. Loki looked down and a light bulb went off in his head, but he was thinking of something else. Your idea is not bad. Her golden hair shines brighter than the sun. It is her greatest pride. If we cut her hair off, she will be ashamed to face others. This way you don't have to worry about her telling everyone about you. Loki looked at Zhang Tian with a look that said you are so smart. Zhang Tian bit his lip and swallowed the rest of the words with some hesitation. Loki doesn't seem to be a bad guy. That's it, not as bad as me, am I the real bad guy? While he was struggling, Loki had already taken him to Sif's palace. The palace is gorgeous and exquisite, magnificent and splendid, covered with gold and various works of art, giving it a luxurious feel. Their target, Sif, was currently lying on a large, soft golden bed. Her graceful figure and curvy and seductive body were on full display. Zhang Tian felt a heat in his lower abdomen as he recalled the scene of making love on this bed. But what he didn't dare to say was that he transformed into Loki's appearance to meet Sif. He originally wanted to have some peace and quiet, and Loki was hated by the gods in Asgard, so after he became him, there were no gods to bother him anymore. But he didn't expect that the pure goddess Sif, Thor's wife, had an affair with Loki and pulled him into the bedroom. Only then did he understand why in mythology Loki was disliked by his nephew Thor, the god of thunder. It was probably because Thor had sensed something. Loki, who was unromantic, had already picked up a long razor and shaved off Sif's long, golden, and dazzling hair. In the blink of an eye, a stunning goddess with extraordinary beauty turned into a sexy bald goddess. I can't say it's not beautiful, it just looks a bit strange. After doing all this, Loki turned around and left quickly with Zhang Tian. Ah, my hair! A shrill, ear-piercing cry pierced the sky, and the birds in the forest were startled and flew away in fright. Thor, the god of thunder, was leisurely chewing the delicious food brought by his servant, but when he heard the scream of his wife Sif, he stood up and quickly ran back home. My beautiful wife, what's wrong with you? Thor, the god of thunder, pushed open the exquisite and thick door and asked anxiously. But when he saw his beautiful, charming, and seductive wife turned into a glaring bald head, he was speechless for a moment. Loki, it must be him. Thor, the god of thunder, was extremely furious. After comforting his wife, he quickly locked on the suspect. In Asgard, only Loki, who is naughty by nature and likes to play tricks on the gods, would do such boring and disgusting things. Chapter 163. For the sake of his beautiful wife, Thor, the god of thunder, kept wandering around Asgard, looking for Loki like an angry bull. But Loki saw that the situation was not good, so he ran away early. Zhang turned into a golden ribbon, hung on the two horns above Loki's head, and fluttered freely. Thor, what are you looking for? Heimdall, the guard guarding the rainbow bridge, looked at the furious Thor and asked puzzledly. Heimdall, do you know where Loki is? Thor stared at Heimdall and asked him. Heimdall has amazing eyesight and hearing abilities and can see any scene within 1,000 miles. Because of his special ability, the god King Odin asked him to guard the rainbow bridge and check the whereabouts of the giants in the giant kingdom. When Heimdall heard this, he opened his eyes and looked around for a while, then he saw Loki running away. I saw Loki. He was preparing to leave Asgard and go to other worlds. You go to the northeast to intercept him, and you will definitely catch him. Heimdall revealed Loki's location and said bluntly. Heimdall also hated Loki extremely, and had a feeling of disgust from the bottom of his heart, as if the two of them were enemies. It was for this reason that he seemed very happy that Loki was defeated. What he didn't know was that in the original Ragnarok, he would perish together with Loki. However, he lacks divine power and the ability to predict the future, so he cannot see through this relationship. Humph, Loki, let's see where you can escape. Thor, the god of thunder, took big strides and rushed towards Loki's position at a speed of dozens of meters per step. The violent speed made the air sound like firecrackers exploding, and the sound waves vibrated, causing nearby plants and trees to shatter. Loki was speeding on the road when he heard a terrifying and cold voice. Loki, my good uncle, you are so hard to find. The voice of Thor, the god of thunder, sounded from behind him. His body as strong as a bear stretched out and hugged Loki tightly. Crunch! A sharp cracking sound came from Loki's body. It was the sound of his bones breaking when Thor held him tightly in his arms. Loki's face was filled with pain, and he struggled hard to break free from the restraints, but it was useless in the face of Thor's strong body like steel. Nephew, let go, I'm going to be strangled to death by you. Loki begged for mercy quickly. He knew how powerful Thor, the god of thunder, was and how explosive his temper was. If he did not give in, he might be strangled to death in his anger. As for a head-on confrontation with Thor, he had never thought about it. One is that Thor is the son of his sworn brother Odin, and they have a very close relationship. Second, Thor, the god of thunder, is a rising star and ranks among the top 3 in strength among the Aesir. He has immense power and is invulnerable to swords and spears. With his record of slaughtering countless giants and rebels and his unrivaled fighting power, Loki gave up head-on confrontation. You deserve to die. You shaved Sif's blonde hair off. Now she's hiding in her house and doesn't want to see anyone. As he spoke, he exerted force in vain with his sturdy arms, as if he was venting the anger in his heart. Sif cared most about her beautiful and dazzling golden hair, which made her attractive and beautiful, but it was ruined by Loki who loved to joke. I was wrong, and I am willing to make up for it. Loki, his face purple and breathless, begged for mercy. I pulled out Sif's hair by the roots, so it won't grow back. If you strangle me to death, it will be all over. After hearing Loki's words, Thor, the god of thunder, who had been tense all over, became clearer and more rational. At this time, he also thought about the consequences, and resisted the urge to crush Loki to ashes, so he let him go. His face was still ferocious, his eyes were bloodshot, and he said angrily, Loki, you'd better keep your word, otherwise even if you are the sworn brother of the god King Odin, I will send you to the underworld. Loki collapsed on the ground, breathing in deep gulps of air and beating his chest with his arms. My nephew, with my wisdom and strategy, will definitely help Sif make up for her beautiful and charming golden hair. Remember what you said. If you can't do it, I will break your bones one by one. Thor snorted coldly, then turned and left, leaving Loki behind with a hideous and painful look. As a pure-blooded frost giant, Loki's recovery ability was extremely fast. He stopped the bleeding quickly, but he still collapsed to the ground. Loki, how are you? Are you still okay? It seems that your status among the Aesir is not very good. The silk ribbon on Loki's head fell with the wind and turned into Zhang Qian, standing on the ground. Let me take a break. My internal organs have been shattered by him. Loki panted heavily, coughing up pieces of meat from time to time. Loki is an intelligent giant, and his body cannot compare to the strong body of Thor. It will take some time for him to fully recover. Looking at Loki's appearance, Zhang Tian took out a green apple as green as jade in order to make him run faster. The green apple has an exquisite appearance, is crystal clear, and has a bright color. It exudes a lot of rich vitality, making people's appetites grow at the sight of it. Apple of youth, where did you get it? Looking at the juicy green apple, Loki looked at Zhang Tian in shock. You know, the apple of youth is Asgard's most precious treasure, which has the effect of making people regain youth and prolonging life. The goddess who created, guarded, and picked this apple was Idun, the goddess of youth and the owner of the eternal garden, the wife of Bragi, the god of poetry. In the world of Norse mythology, gods have a lifespan and will grow old and die, so the goddess of youth Idun is particularly important. No, this is not youth. The apples just look very similar. Loki, who had taken the apple of youth, played with the juicy green apple in his hands and soon discovered the difference. Eat yours. This is the vitality apple I created. It can also be called the healing apple. It can cure most injuries and make you recover quickly. Zhang Tian said. Strange, the goddess of youth Idun has the youth magic that even the gods are unwilling to tell, so how did you get it? Loki was puzzled as he held the green apple, but he still couldn't help but take a bite. It tastes like a youth apple, which is strange. Zhang Tian watched Loki eat the apple of youth and said calmly, because the raw materials are made from the apples from the apple tree in Eden's eternal garden. During these 7 years, he did not enjoy sexual pleasure and carnal desires every day. By switching back and forth between the identities of Odin and Loki, he discovered many secrets of the Aesir, including the apple of youth of the goddess of youth, Idun. He originally wanted to use the identity of the king of gods Odin to make the goddess of youth Idun reveal the secret of making the apple of youth. But later it was discovered that the goddess of youth Idun had signed some kind of agreement with the Aesir. As long as she could continue to provide the Aesir with the apple of youth, the Aesir would protect her and not explore this secret. Chapter 164. He also thought about using Loki's identity to obtain it through lies and deception, but he didn't do so in the end. First, he felt that he couldn't keep tricking Loki, second, he felt that doing so was useless, and third, he thought of a new way. The goddesses of Asgard appear to be pure and beautiful on the surface, but deep down they are vain, lustful, and greedy. These defects are very obvious and can be clearly seen from the comparison of exquisite jewelry, promiscuous relationships between men and women, and the search for lovers in various ways. Zhang Tian transformed himself into Adonis, the beautiful young man he had killed, and came to the eternal garden where the goddess of youth Idun was. Using the lame excuse of being lost, he successfully deceived the young goddess Idun, who was obsessed with his handsome and charming figure. Under the attack of various sweet words and earthy love talks, he successfully won the heart of the young goddess Idun and they confided their true feelings to each other. In the days that followed, the two lived a shameless life and were extremely happy. Just when the goddess of youth Idun was immersed in the land of tenderness, Zhang Tian made up a story about his old father who was about to die, and tricked the goddess of youth Idun into giving him the method of making the apple of youth. The apple of youth does not grow on a tree. Instead, the goddess of youth, Idun, uses the apple as a medium to cast her own youth magic and bestow the apple with the ability to maintain eternal youth. If the gods eat these apples, they will be able to remain young forever, extend their lifespan and enjoy an immortal life. After succeeding, Zhang Tian prepared to escape, but due to his guilt towards the goddess of youth Idun, he made up a story that he was killed by a wild boar while returning home to visit his relatives. After escaping from death, Zhang Tian studied and learned the magic of youth, but found that only the goddess of youth, Idun, could fully perform this magic. This is because the goddess of youth, Idun, possesses the ability to keep people young and prolong their lifespan. But Zhang Tian does not have this ability. He cannot transform ordinary green apples into magical fruits like the ones on the peach tree, which can prolong life if eaten. However, he was not discouraged. The apple of youth, a treasure of the gods, was not so easy to obtain, and he had been mentally prepared. After much thought, he improved the magic of youth and turned it into a new apple that could heal injuries and restore physical strength. After taking a few bites of the apple, Loki quickly recovered from his injuries and energy and became full of energy again. Great, I didn't expect you to have this ability. I really underestimated you. Loki looked left and right and found that his injuries had indeed healed. His eyes were full of joy. Give me a few more. Maybe they'll be useful in the future. Seeing Loki's request, Zhang Tian did not refuse, but generously gave him a few more. These apples are easy to make, requiring only the extraction of the essence of the world tree and then the use of magic to blend them. If it weren't for Loki's help, he wouldn't have learned transfiguration and entered Asgard. Most of his achievements today were due to Loki's help, so he was not stingy. Seeing Loki happily taking a few green apples into his arms, Zhang Tian said, "Thank you very much. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be able to enter and leave Asgard so easily." Loki waved his hand and said bluntly, "I did this just to cover up your crime. As long as you leave Asgard, those goddesses you slept with won't spread rumors. Frigga, the queen of gods, is not someone you can easily mess with." Zhang Tian nodded, agreeing with what he said. Those goddesses who looked glamorous, pure, and holy did not dare to spread rumors and risk being known by their husbands and the queen of the gods. But there was one thing Loki didn't expect: he also slept with some goddesses pretending to be Loki. Most of the male gods in Asgard advocate force and fighting, have explosive and cold personalities, and rarely cater to those beautiful and attractive goddesses. Loki, a guy with a humorous personality and a love of joking, is in stark contrast to the male gods. Putting the two together, many goddesses are attracted by Loki's tricks. So when Zhang Tian used Loki's face to receive tasks, the goddesses all looked charming and seductive, inviting him to do some exercises that were beneficial to his body and mind. One day, Loki might find that he has unknowingly had several mistresses and lovers. However, the Norse gods have extremely corrupt lover relationships, comparable to the Greek gods, so they probably wouldn't care too much. But even so, Zhang Tian felt a little sorry for Loki. To make it up to Loki, he said, "The Aesir do not welcome your frost giant bloodline and your eccentricity. I suggest you leave Asgard and live somewhere else." In her communication with the goddess, she learned that quite a few male gods disliked Loki, and some even hated his existence. If it weren't for the fact that he and the god King Odin were sworn brothers, he would have been driven out long ago. In the myth, it was also the gods who excluded Loki, causing this god who was both good and evil to eventually fall completely to the opposite side of the gods. Afterwards, he was imprisoned in a cave by the gods of the Aesir. He was not freed until the world fell into winter and Ragnarok arrived. Loki's cynical smile disappeared, his face was as calm as water, and his eyes full of wisdom were like shining stars. He laughed and said, "Of course I know, but so what? I have contributed to the establishment of this world, and I deserve to enjoy the glory that belongs to me in the Asgard divine realm. I am the god of fire. The 9 realms thrive on my existence. If I leave Asgard, the world will fall into a cold and hopeless situation." Having said this, Zhang Tian didn't know what to say anymore. But he still gave Loki a hint. "If one day you are ostracized by the Aesir and can no longer survive in Asgard, you can try to join the forces of the Inhumans. Players are equivalent to variables in this world, and may even save Loki's life." Loki's expression didn't change after hearing this, instead he said, "I am going to the kingdom of the dwarves. Their forging skills are very sophisticated and they can definitely make the long golden hair that Sif wants. Do you want to come with me?" He thought that as long as he could get the Inhuman away from Asgard, any difficult problem could be easily solved. Zhang Tian agreed without thinking, and turned into a golden ribbon again, hanging on Loki's horns. Why walk on your own when there are free walking tools? Loki may not seem very powerful, but he is facing Thor, the god of thunder in Norse mythology, a god with extremely high combat power. In a head-on confrontation, Zhang Tian is no match for Loki right now, not to mention his speed of action. So, riding on Loki, he quickly traveled through the 9 realms and soon arrived at Safatafhanheim, the kingdom of the dwarves. Chapter 165. As soon as we arrived in the dwarf kingdom, we heard the clanging sound of forging. Zhang Tian looked in the direction of the sound, only to discover that it came from underground. The dwarves in this world were transformed from maggots and were said to have bad character, so the gods banished them underground and did not allow them to come to the surface. As long as they move on the ground and are exposed to sunlight, they will turn into stone. Therefore, the areas and territories where the dwarves live are all underground. However, it is precisely because of their underground activities that they can often find rare minerals and jewels. Combined with the dwarves' unique forging talent, they are able to forge weapons and jewelry that even the gods desire. Stranger, now that we have arrived at the dwarf kingdom, I want to find the top blacksmith among the dwarves. I will not go with you, you can travel by yourself. Loki said. Zhang Tian nodded and agreed readily. Listening to the familiar forging sound, it seems like returning to the underworld in Greek mythology. At that time, he was also a hard-working blacksmith. Every day he either dug for ores in the mines, or used tall furnaces beside the river of fire to smelt ores and forge weapons. In his memory, he also watched the god of fire Hephaestus forge artifacts, so he possessed extraordinary forging attainments. He hadn't touched a high-temperature furnace for a long time, and now he was itching to forge weapons. After leaving Loki, he wandered around the dwarf country. Although the dwarves live underground, their houses are connected to the ground. The round barrel-shaped exhaust pipes on the ground expose the location of these dwarves. In the dwarf kingdom, there are not only dwarves living there, he also found many gnomes, elves, players, etc. The number of players was so large that they swept across several worlds like wasps, and the dwarf kingdom was one of them. Here, most of the players were adventuring and taking on quests, and some of them had married local dwarf girls and were leading shameless lives, which made him feel a little sad. This kind of life cannot be said to be bad. After all, in the real world, many people cannot even get married, but in this mythological world, they can have beauties on both sides. But coming to the mythical world is to give ordinary people a brand new opportunity, right? But these people wasted it. Zhang Tian shook his head and continued walking forward. When passing a brown hill, the light steps stopped. There was also a dwarf living under the hill. Zhang Tian listened to the forging sounds coming from underground and realized that this was a rare forging master among the dwarves. With the idea of mutual appreciation and exchange of ideas, he planned to visit the dwarf forging master. She. Zhang Tian pulled a thick rope next to the chimney and waited at the door. This rope is the doorbell, a unique product of the dwarves. When the rope is pulled, the bells underground will make sounds due to the shaking of the rope. After a while, a heavy and harsh voice sounded from underground. Yiren, why do you bother me? The sound was as rough as pulling a bellows. He must have heard some noise and put down the forging hammer in his hand and came up to check. Hello, I'm a traveler passing by. I heard that you have forging skills far beyond ordinary people, so I wanted to communicate with you. Zhang Tian said. Haha, very interesting. You can hear the mystery of my forging. There was an inexplicable hint of sarcasm in the heavy voice of the master forger. I have never seen an alien who can surpass the dwarves in forging skills, let alone communicate with me. His words revealed undisguised disdain and arrogance. Zhang Tian raised the corner of his mouth and smiled slightly. This forging master has inexplicable confidence in his skills, but in Zhang Tian's opinion, there are still some shortcomings. He calmly hummed the regular knocking sounds and finally pointed out a few problems. At this time, it was the turn of the dwarf forging master underground to remain silent. After a moment, the heavy voice sounded again, Yiren, you impressed me. Come in, I will receive you with the highest courtesy. There was a harsh and heavy sound of stone slabs sliding, and a dark hole appeared on the ground. There were stairs leading downwards that had been dug in the cave. Zhang Tian was not afraid and walked down directly. The dwarves live in the cold and damp underground, but they are not bloodthirsty by nature, so they are not afraid of any traps. Walking down the stairs, we saw bright oil lamps on both sides. Welcome, I'm Brock, the dwarf forging master. I'm sorry, but I'm not sure what to call you. A sloppy-looking dwarf with a full beard walked out of the cave. He is only 1.23 meters tall, but his physique is extremely strong, like a muscular giant, with densely knotted muscles. The arms are very thick, no less than the calves, and the palms are covered with dark yellow calluses accumulated over time. You can call me Zhang Tian. I am also a blacksmith. I hope to come here to exchange experiences and skills with you. Zhang Tian said sincerely. Brock smiled, then let Zhang Tian in and took out the fine wine and food in his home to treat him. After eating and drinking, Brock took Zhang Tian to his exhibition room. Various weapons and treasures are displayed here, all of which were carefully crafted by him, including long swords, long bows, long spears, and various exquisite jewelry. The treasures and weapons emit a bright divine light, and are engraved with runes and magic circuits, which have magical effects. These treasures are coveted even by the gods, Brock said proudly. Some of them are indestructible, some never miss a target, and some can hit the enemy 100% of the time. Yes, they are indeed some excellent works. Zhang Tian could see that Brock had poured a lot of effort into these treasures. Among the blacksmiths he knew, Brock could be ranked in the top 3. The first was the god of fire Hephaestus, and the second was the Cyclops. However, those two are both gods, and their status is comparable to that of Thor, the god of thunder, which further shows how talented Brock is. There is no god of forging in this world, mainly because Loki is a quirky person by nature and is not suitable for forging weapons. Of course, part of the reason is that the gods are naturally proud and unwilling to be involved in such hard work. They prefer to indulge in pleasure and be unrestrained. As long as they humble themselves, research and learn, they can create weapons that are comparable to or even more powerful than those of the dwarves. Unfortunately, this kind of thing will not happen. Blacksmithing is too hard. It is better to find a few more lovers and enjoy yourself more. Chapter 166. In the exhibition room, after viewing the artifacts, Zhang Tian praised them a lot, but he only mentioned a few of them that had flaws. As a guest, of course you cannot offend the host, so you should focus on saying nice things. Brock was very satisfied when he heard Zhang Tian's words, and a smile could not be concealed on his rough face. It is his supreme honor to be recognized and praised by another master forger. Master Zhang Tian, do you want to make one too? Brock said. He also wanted to see the craftsmanship of this master forger. The aliens, a strange race, seem to be proficient in a variety of skills and have the strange ability to resurrect. This was also the first time that Brock encountered an alien with forging skills, so he was very curious about the craftsmanship and forging methods of this artist. As a master forger of the dwarves, he only learned the forging techniques and methods of the dwarves and had not seen the methods of the forging masters of other races. Each race has different characteristics, so the forging methods must be different. Brock hopes to learn new forging methods and knowledge from the forging master in front of him so as to break through his own bottleneck. This was exactly what Zhang Tian meant, so he nodded. He was also planning to show off his skills and forge a weapon to use. While in Asgard, he obtained the runes and mastered most of the world's magic, spells and various knowledge. In addition, in the world of Greek mythology, one can observe and learn the forging skills of Hephaestus, the god of fire. The collision and combination of knowledge from the two worlds will inevitably create dazzling sparks. Standing in front of the huge stove, he fell into deep thought again. He was thinking about whether he should make a flying sword for himself. After all, he was practicing chi refining technique, and flying with a sword was pretty good. But he thought of the Lord of the Rings, which was based on the world of Norse mythology, and this made him want to create a magical ring. Only children make choices. I want them all. Finally, Zhang Tian decided to build both. He stood by the stove, his face covered with sweat and a thoughtful expression, his eyes bright and focused. The flames licked the molten metal in the furnace, making a crackling sound. With the fall of an iron hammer, Zhang Tian began his forging process. He placed a piece of pig iron on the anvil with molten metal and struck it with a hammer precisely and rhythmically, with each blow accompanied by a crisp thump and a pleasant ringing sound from the metal. His arms were tense, showing amazing strength and control. He manipulated the hammer with skill, bringing it down on the metal, each blow carving out precise details as the weapon gradually took shape. Sparks flew all around him and the high-temperature flames burned fiercely, but they did not affect him at all. Brock, who was standing by, looked at Zhang Tian's forging style, which was different from that of the dwarves. His eyes lit up and he was extremely excited. This technique is truly amazing. Zhang Tian did not speak, but continued to recall the forging techniques of the god of fire Hephaestus, and used the ingenious forging method to carve the runes on the flying sword. After a while, a green flying sword suddenly appeared in the melting furnace. Zhang Tian took it out, put it aside, and started forging it again. This time, he wants to create a magic ring, a ring that can capture people's hearts. He does not have dark powers and cannot bend people's hearts and drag them into darkness as in the original drama. So he decided to take a different approach and add the beautiful traits of the many goddesses he met in Asgard into his work. Anyone who can wear it will gain supreme charm and become the most beautiful woman in the world. The same steps and the same operations, soon a ring was made. This is a ring that emits colorful light. The gorgeous patterns have an indescribable magic that makes people fall in love with it at first sight. Snap, snap, snap. Brock clapped and cheered on the side, his eyes full of recognition for Zhang Tian. Of these two items, the flying sword was named Qingping sword by him, which has a strong huaxia classical charm. The enchanting and charming ring was named Ring of the Goddess to commemorate the many beautiful goddesses in Asgard. When people saw the ring, it was like seeing all the goddesses in Asgard. Zhang Tianyu used his flying sword, which was extremely agile and kept circling in the sky, which made Brock look curious. And when Zhang Tian put on the goddess's ring, Brock's eyes were full of love and obsession. This fiery gaze frightened Zhang Tian so much that he took off the ring immediately, but after thinking about it, he felt that it was not a good idea and gave it directly to Brock. The effect of the goddess's ring was so powerful that it made him very satisfied and also very scared. He was afraid that he would not be able to control himself and would use the ring to deceive his god, thus embarking on a path of evil and depravity. Master Brock, this ring is my gift. I hope you can accept it. Zhang Tian said. Brock looked at the ring in fascination and slowly put it away. This goddess ring is so exquisite. I have only seen one comparable to it from my ancestors, or even one that surpasses it. This statement caught Zhang Tian's attention, and he really wanted to see an item that could surpass the goddess ring. But after Brock finished speaking, he didn't say any other information, which made him itchy. But soon, the opportunity came again. The dwarves live underground, and in order to resist the cold and damp environment, they are addicted to alcohol. Brock did the same. He took out some fine wine and treated Zhang Tian again. When the two of them were drinking together, Zhang Tian put down the wine and sighed. Master Brock, your wine still tastes a little off. The dwarves are addicted to alcohol and have extraordinary skills in making fine wine. Zhang Tian's words caused Brock's dissatisfaction. Master Zhang Tian, your forging skills are impeccable, but how dare you speak so arrogantly about fine wine? Brock's rough beard trembled, and he was obviously very dissatisfied. The fine wine of my dwarven race is so delicious that even the Aesir gods would not dare to say anything bad about it. Zhang Tian laughed and said proudly, I have a way to make the wine taste even better. Master Brock, would you like to try it? He had absolute confidence, simply because the wine he drank was only around 10 or 20 degrees, and was no match for the liquor in the real world. He planned to use distillation to make a strong liquor, get Brock drunk and then extract information from him. Brock still didn't believe it, but as a forging master, he decided to give Zhang Tian a chance to prove it. Zhang Tian didn't say anything and made a set of distillation equipment. Although it was very simple, it was sufficient for use. Looking at this set of distillation equipment, Brock was also confused. In this world, there were no players who were involved in distilling liquor, so Brock didn't understand it. Chapter 167. Place the still on the stove, fill it with wine and cover it with a lid. As the cauldron was heated by the scorching heat, the surface of the iron pot had turned red and the wine in the pot was making gurgling sounds. At this moment, Brock's nose twitched slightly and his eyes sparkled. This is such a strong smell of wine, so fragrant. He shouted loudly, dancing with joy. When the clear distilled liquor flowed out of the iron pipe, Brock never took his eyes off it. Why didn't I think of this method? It's just like forging a weapon, making the wine even sweeter. After the liquor cooled down slightly, Brock couldn't help but pick up the glass, filled it with liquor, and drank it all in one gulp. It's great. I feel like I have seen the most wonderful thing in the world. The alcohol content of the liquor was very high, but Brock didn't care and drank it one sip after another. After a while, his face turned red from drinking, he staggered, and his eyes were blurry. Zhang Tian saw that he couldn't be allowed to drink any more, as he would get drunk, so he stopped him immediately. After persuading him to sit at the table and eat a few peanuts, he began to ask him about the treasure in an indirect way. Brock, who had drunk strong liquor, had long forgotten about keeping secrets. He answered whatever was asked and told everything. At the beginning of the world, in order to prevent the sky from falling, the Aesir gods sent 4 of the strongest dwarves to hold up the sky with their shoulders. These 4 were the original dwarves and the ancestors of the dwarves. They lived in the north, south, east and west, and their names were Nordri, Sudri, Ostri and Westri. Their forging skills are extremely sophisticated and have long reached the pinnacle level. Not long ago, they worked together to create a necklace called Bridgegamin. This necklace is forged from gold, jewels, and magical craftsmanship. Just wearing this necklace can make a woman more beautiful. No matter what kind of man he is, he will be impressed by the beauty of the wearer. Does it have such magical effects? Then I want to go and take a look. Zhang Tian became curious. He had absolute confidence in the goddess ring he made. But he was not in a hurry. He found out the places where the 4 dwarves lived and where the necklace was stored. The next day. Ouch, my head is so dizzy. Brock woke up from his drunkenness and opened his blurry eyes. After a while, he washed his face with clean water and finally woke up. My goodness, the wine brewed with fire tastes different. I, Brock, used to have a reputation among the dwarves for being able to drink 1,000 cups without getting drunk, but now I can't do it after these few cups. Although he said that, his eyes kept looking at the liquor, as if he wanted to continue drinking. Zhang Tian advised, although white wine is delicious, it is not advisable to drink too much. Drinking too much will paralyze your brain and affect the crafting of weapons. Brock thought about it and resisted the temptation to drink a swig of liquor. Ding ding dang dang. A crisp sound came from the wall beside me. The walls were hung with bells, tied to ropes that swung back and forth. Hey, someone else is coming. Who is it? Brock walked forward and looked at one end of the wall. There are many mirrors inlaid on the walls, which use the principle of reflection to see the traces on the ground clearly. There was also a dwarf on top, but he was wearing thick clothes that blocked the dazzling sunlight. Oh, my brother is here. Brock said happily and quickly got up to open the door. It just so happens that he is here, let him have a taste of your hot and fiery liquor. After a while, another dwarf came down the stairs. He looked very similar to Brock and had an equally strong and sturdy body. Master Zhang Tian, this is my brother Hindley. Brock said to the two of them. My dear brother, let me introduce you to this man, a forging master among the Inhumans, and also a maker of fine wine. Zhang Tian smiled to show his friendliness. Although Hindley had some doubts in his heart, he did not say it out of consideration for his brother, but nodded. However, when he saw the flying sword and ring made by Zhang Tian, he was amazed, stared at them obsessively, and rubbed the patterns on them with his rough fingers. I have never seen such miraculous training achievements in this world. Hindley's gaze towards Zhang Tian also became more kind. When they saw the liquor, they became immediately enthusiastic, just like close brothers from the same family. My brother, why did you come here? Brock asked as the three of them sat around the table drinking wine and eating delicious food. If you hadn't told me, I would have forgotten the important matter. Hindley patted his head in annoyance. I met Loki, the god of trickery. He gathered the top forging masters in the dwarf kingdom and wanted to create some artifacts for the gods. As long as you succeed, you will surely receive the rewards and glory of the gods. He said while looking at Brock and Zhang Tian with a burning gaze. My brother, if we join forces, we will surely be able to seize the supreme honor of being the top blacksmith. Loki, the god of trickery, has always been a liar and extremely treacherous. You can't trust him. Brock was a little hesitant. Don't be afraid, we just need to make him swear an oath. If he dares to deceive us, we will chop off his head. Hindley snorted coldly. And Zhang Tian understood that Loki wanted to find a top craftsman to create beautiful and dazzling golden hair for Sif. But from the news, it seems that Loki is not satisfied with just making long golden hair. He also wants to deceive the top craftsmen of the dwarf kingdom to make other artifacts for the gods. Unfortunately, what Loki didn't expect was that the artifact he had spent so much effort to create would end up on his own body. I won't participate. The glory and rewards of the gods are of no use to me. He refused directly. Returning to Asgard was not in his plan. He planned to go to the residence of the four dwarf ancestors to see the magical necklace that embodied all the beauty. Hindley and Brock didn't take it seriously when they heard it. They knew that the aliens always did many unexpected things and were even more difficult to understand than Loki. After the two brothers thought it over, they prepared their own food and went to look for Loki, ready to go to Asgard together. Above the blue sky, white clouds are like boats, floating in the endless sky. A long green rainbow cut through the sky, as fast as lightning, and flew towards the edge of the world. This long green rainbow is Zhang Tian's flying sword. It flies freely under the control of his mind, and its flying speed surpasses Loki. The surface of the Cyan flying sword is loaded with magic such as lightness, floating, flying, and extreme speed. It is fast and stable, and is an excellent flying tool. Absolute speed also carries with it absolute attack power, which can turn a person into a hornet's nest in an instant. Chapter 168. After flying for an unknown amount of time, I finally arrived at the end of the sky, the edge of the world. Here, there is a huge castle made of huge stones. This is where the four sky-carrying dwarves gather. Zhang Tian originally wanted to go down and communicate directly, but he didn't expect to hear shocking news. Freya, the goddess of love and beauty, walked out of the castle with a graceful figure, light steps, and a happy mood. She left humming a little tune. Why is Freya here? Zhang Tian was a little confused. As a goddess of the Vanir, she and her brother were exchanged to the Aesir. Shouldn't she stay in Asgard? The reason why he knew her was because he used the identity of Odin to get close to her. That was one of the few tasks that was not completed. When the two met, Freya asked for an exquisite bracelet, which was said to be in the hands of the dwarf, but he felt it was too far away and simply refused. Now that I think about it, it seems that this is a magic necklace that was created by these four dwarves together. But seeing how happy she was, she must have reached a deal with the dwarves. This made him curious about what kind of deal could make the dwarves willing to give away this precious and rare treasure. In order to find out, he transformed into a grey bird and flew into the dwarf castle. The castles where the dwarves live are made of stacked stones. They are very spacious and sounds can be heard from far away. Before I saw the dwarves, I could hear their joyful voices. Ha ha ha, if I can get Freya, the most beautiful goddess in the god realm, losing a magic necklace is nothing. Brother is right. I have heard that she is vain and loves jewelry. For the magic necklace, she is willing to sleep with the four of us brothers. We brothers must have a good taste of the first goddess in the god realm. Brothers, let's eat and drink first, so that we can have enough energy to deal with her. Third brother is right. After eating, we can go to the forest cabin and have fun with the goddess. Then came some unbearable words that echoed in the castle. Zhang Tian frowned as he listened. He didn't expect that Freya, the goddess coveted by gods and giants, would agree to such a ridiculous thing for four dwarves for a magic necklace. But this is not surprising, it is very consistent with the decadent lifestyle of Western gods. When Zhang Tian was in Asgard, he discovered that these gods, who seemed glamorous on the surface, were actually filthy and behaved in a very despicable manner, even worse than ordinary people. It's too fancy, and many people won't believe it if you tell them. He also heard that the goddess Freya had a husband among the Vanir and even had 2 children. But even so, her private life is still quite unrestrained, and there are some unspeakable things between her and her brother Frey. Looking at the 4 ugly dwarves, Zhang Tian felt a little unhappy, and also felt a little disgusted and angry towards the goddess Freya. Flowers were inserted into cow dung, even 4 times in a row. Zhang Tian followed his heart and decided to destroy this matter and give them corresponding punishment. The first thing to do is to get the magic necklace they want to exchange. 4 dwarves can carry the sky on their shoulders, so it is conceivable that their strength must be unfathomable. He decided to outsmart them. Zhang Tian knew that the dwarf was addicted to alcohol and would definitely drink the liquor when he saw it. When he was drunk, it would be the best time for him to take action. After he flew out of the dwarf castle, he transformed into a short and sturdy dwarf, wearing a black robe and carrying a jar of white wine. Fine wine, supreme wine, the best wine in the 9 realms, is there anyone who wants to buy it? He kept shouting outside the castle, and soon attracted 4 dwarves out. What kind of wine dares to say it is the best wine in the 9 realms? Looking at the 4 ugly dwarves coming out, Zhang Tian was secretly happy, thinking that the plan was half successful. He immediately opened the wine lid and shook the air with his hand, and a rich aroma of wine hit him in the face. By Odin, the taste of this wine intoxicates me. Smelling this rich aroma of wine, I seem to smell a fire burning in my body. Good wine, definitely top-notch wine. We 4 brothers are in for a treat. The 4 dwarves chatted one after another, opened their thick mouths, revealing their yellow-brown teeth, and praised the aroma of the white wine. From time to time, he stuck out his tongue and licked his lips, holding back his saliva so that it would not flow down his mouth. This scene made Zhang Tian feel extremely sick. He admired the goddess Freya very much, who could go to such lengths for a magic necklace. Come to think of it, the goddesses in Asgard seem to be pretty much like this. They are vain, greedy for luxurious treasures, compete with each other, behave dissolutely, and lead a dissolute and licentious life. If not for this, how could he have easily slept with Odin and Loki for 7 years just by relying on their skin? After some bargaining, the 4 dwarves got the liquor back to the castle as they wished. Zhang Tian followed closely behind, transformed into a little grey mouse again, and sneaked in with nimble steps. An hour and a half later, he heard a deafening snoring coming from the room. Success! Zhang Tian was overjoyed. He quietly went in to check and found that there was no trap. Then he revealed his true form. The place where these dwarves live is spacious and bright, but very simple, with most of the furniture and utensils made of huge stones. After some searching, he found some clues in the corner of the wall. The stone slabs underneath are very old, and there is a noticeable shake when you step on them. You can tell at a glance that they are moved frequently. He carefully took out the slate, and underneath it was a wooden box made of birch. The grey-white wooden box is not big, only the size of a palm, but it is engraved with many magic rune traps. If it were anyone else, they might not be able to solve it, but when Zhang Tian was in Asgard, he often took out the golden slate to look at it, and he knew the runes on it clearly. Runes are the source of all magic and spells in the world. As long as you understand runes, you can understand all magic and spells in the world. He used his brain a little, thought about it, broke the magic trap in front of him, and opened the wooden box easily. When the lid of the wooden box was opened, a brilliant golden light shone out, as bright as gold, dazzling and making the entire castle look magnificent. It's worthy of being a magic necklace praised by Brock. My magic ring is still a little inferior. Zhang Tian looked at the exquisite and mysterious magic necklace, took it in his hand to play with it, and exclaimed in admiration. Only the god of fire Hephaestus could surpass this exquisite craftsmanship. When wearing it, no matter whether a woman is ugly or weird-looking, she will be blessed by the magic necklace and become the most beautiful woman in the world. Freya, the goddess of love and beauty, is already stunningly beautiful. After wearing this magic necklace, her status as the most beautiful woman in the 9 realms will probably be unshakable. Chapter 169. In the hall of the castle, on a large stone table, 4 dwarves were lying on it, as motionless as dead pigs. Zhang Tian looked at the dwarves who collapsed after getting drunk and felt uneasy, so he cast a sleeping magic on them again. With this magic, they will fall into a deep sleep and cannot wake up for a long time. During this period, Zhang Tian will replace them, change into their appearance and body shape, and go to find Freya, the goddess of love and beauty. Time flew by, and soon it was the time agreed upon by Freya and the 4 dwarves. Zhang Tian transformed into the eldest of the dwarves, 1 meter 3 tall, with a strong and sturdy body, thick hair and a beard that reached his chest. I originally thought of going there empty-handed, but I felt that I shouldn't do that, so I went to the stove and created a piece of equipment with my exquisite craftsmanship and skills. There aren't many things, but they're all very practical. After preparing his combat weapons, he went to the appointment with satisfaction. He strode forward, walking as fast as a meteor, and soon arrived at the agreed hut in the woods. He arrived relatively early, as the goddess Freya had not yet arrived. After a while, the cry of a heron was heard in the sky. Zhang Tian looked up and saw the heron slowly landing on the ground, turning into a charming, enchanting goddess. Goddess Freya slowly stood up, revealing her long, straight thighs, tall and attractive figure, and plump and full breasts. Just looking at her appearance, Zhang Tian had to admit that she was indeed beautiful and charming, and her every frown and smile revealed her unparalleled charm and seduction. In Asgard, the goddess Freya ranked in the top 3 in terms of beauty, and she was one of the goddesses he had never gotten. When Freya looked up at Zhang Tian, her beautiful eyes were as clear and bright as the moon, and her beautiful face was natural and flawless. Just as he was about to speak, he saw the goddess Freya slowly taking off her exquisite and flawless outer garment, revealing her long, shiny black hair. Stop talking nonsense, let's get straight to the point and finish this as soon as possible. I can't wait to get the magic necklace. The ethereal and beautiful voice of the goddess Freya echoed in the cottage, full of bewitching magic, making all creatures who heard it involuntarily immersed in it. But Zhang Tian had been trained by the goddesses of Asgard and had developed strong resistance. He was not obsessed with it and obeyed the words of the goddess Freya. He raised his head, looked at the goddess Freya with clear eyes, and said lightly, "Since you want the magic necklace, you must obey my command. Only if you make me feel comfortable, I will give you the reward you deserve." As he spoke, he took out the props he had prepared from his backpack. A hint of panic flashed in the eyes of goddess Freya. In addition to being the goddess of beauty and love, she is also the creator of witchcraft. In her words just now, she cast the spell of enchantment. In her impression, even the powerful male gods of Asgard would be unconsciously attracted by her peerless beauty and obey her words. But now, these lowly and inferior dwarves could actually resist her unparalleled charm. How could she not panic? She wanted the magic necklace, but she also didn't want to actually sleep with 4 ugly dwarves taking turns sleeping together. The original plan was going well. He used his witchcraft to confuse the dwarves and make them think they had communicated with him for a whole night. But now the witchcraft is ineffective, she has signed a contract and sworn an oath, and there is no way for her to resist or refuse. When Zhang Tian approached, a trace of humiliation and panic flashed in the eyes of the goddess Freya, but her body cooperated unconsciously. Seeing this charming, cold, and proud goddess kneeling before him like this, he couldn't help but feel a little happy. If she hadn't happened to meet her at the right time, she would probably have grown up with 4 ugly dwarves. Thinking of this, he felt annoyed again. This strange feeling made him very uncomfortable, so he directed his discomfort onto the goddess Freya in front of him. He took out a long thin rope and tied it around the tall and graceful body of the goddess Freya. He looked at his masterpiece and nodded, very satisfied. Then he laid out his equipment one by one and began the blushing and heart-pounding behavior. After 7 days, Zhang Tian finally felt tired and left the cabin in the forest. After a day's rest and eating the green apple, his body instantly regained its vitality and he became the second largest dwarf among the dwarves. This time, he prepared new magical props and was ready to develop a new sport. In Asgard, he was far from being able to be so open. It was because the goddess Freya desperately wanted the magic necklace that she gave up her dignity and attitude and let him play with her at will. The second time lasted even longer, and 10 days passed in a flash. Zhang Tian was in saint mode, and suddenly felt that the pure self of the past seemed gone forever. In the world of Norse mythology, he always felt that there was luck in love everywhere and that he couldn't escape it at all. Here, he committed a love affair comparable to that of Zeus, and from a naive and ignorant person, he became a skilled veteran. But soon, he ate another green apple and became full of energy. It must be said that he was even more skilled the third time around, no longer confined to the tree hut, but choosing other battlefields. Use the sky as your blanket and the earth as your bed. The dwarves who were sleeping in the castle were starving because they had not eaten for a long time. Finally, they could not bear it anymore and woke up. Ah, I had such a comfortable sleep. This wine is indeed a rare and delicious one. It not only satisfies my tongue and mouth, but also my soul and spirit. After drinking the perfect wine, go sleep with the most beautiful goddess. Haha, the boss is right, good wine goes perfectly with beautiful women. The 4 dwarves hadn't figured out what was going on yet and thought they had just slept for one night. But soon, the quick-witted third brother discovered something was wrong. Inside the castle, a thick layer of dust accumulated on the furniture and tables, and the food had rotted and spoiled over time, giving off a pungent smell. That's not right. How long have we slept? The third brother suddenly stood up, looked at everything around him, and woke up. Seeing this, the other 3 dwarves opened their eyes wide and soon realized something was wrong. Ah, our magic necklace was stolen. What? It was stolen. Damn it, we must have been fooled. The dwarf boss clenched his fists angrily and slammed them on the table. Who on earth did this? How dare they go against us 4 brothers? Could it be that the goddess Freya sent someone to do this? After these words were spoken, the dwarves fell silent. This kind of thing is not impossible. Goddess Freya has many suitors, and there are many gods and giants who are capable of doing such things in order to please her. What should we do? Are we just going to endure this? The second dwarf was very angry, his face flushed with rage. No, I can't stand it. I must take revenge. But how can we retaliate if we don't even know who did it? Chapter 170. The dwarves looked at each other and began to wonder which god or giant had done this. But after thinking about it, it turns out to be just their imagination and there is no way to verify it clearly. They can only gather together for a period of time every year, and the rest of the time they have to go to the 4 corners of the world to carry the world. If they neglect their duties and try to track down the murderer, they will surely be discovered by the god King Odin, who will punish them severely. Damn it, do I really have to suffer this loss? From birth to now, we have never been played like this before. Old 4, you are naturally smart. If you have any ideas, tell us about them. The 4th of the dwarves had been silent the whole time, but after hearing what his brothers said, he could only speak up. I have a solution, but it will probably get us into punishment as well. Hurry up and tell me. If I can't avenge this humiliation, I will definitely be burned to death by the flames of anger. Seeing his 3 brothers' eyes full of anger and determination to never give up, the 4th dwarf had no choice but to speak out. That means we report this to God King Odin. When the God King in charge of the 9 realms learns of this, he will surely be furious and punish the goddess Freya. Even if it wasn't done by goddess Freya, the God King would definitely catch that damn thief. By then, our revenge will have been fulfilled." After these words were spoken, the other three dwarves remained silent for a long while. No matter how smart they were, they knew that they would gain nothing after reporting this matter to the god King Odin. As an inferior race created by the gods, they were not allowed to have overly intimate behavior with the gods. This was an order given personally by the god King Odin. However, they dared to use the magic necklace to seduce the goddess Freya and even reached some unspoken agreement, which violated the taboo. By then, they might be the first ones to be punished. No one spoke for a long time. The dwarf leader looked at his brothers who were silent, and he, who had a hot temper, couldn't help but speak first. "I just don't believe how severe the punishment can be. We are the ones who hold up the sky. If we are punished too severely, there will be no one to support the sky. With those pleasure-seeking fellows of the Aesir, no one will be willing to take on this heavy responsibility." After hearing this, the other dwarves' eyes lit up and they all felt that it made sense. "Brother, since you've said that, let's report it." "Brother, what you said makes sense. I don't believe that the god King Odin would punish us just for a goddess." The dwarves talked to each other, and suddenly they no longer had the timidity they had just shown. After a while, a pigeon carrying a letter flew out of the dwarf castle and flew towards Asgard. By the third time, goddess Freya had come to her senses and realized something was wrong. These four dwarves hold up the sky on their shoulders every day. How do they get such sophisticated skills and experience? And each one is more skilled than the other. Even among the male gods of the Aesir and the Vanir, she had never seen anyone with such rich experience. Combined with that extremely embarrassing toy, she was really about to cry to death. On the boat, she bit her lip, and a blush rose on her beautiful face, as eye-catching as a sweet peach. You are definitely not a dwarf. Come on, tell me, who are you?" A sweet voice, like crying, was heard intermittently, and the goddess Freya stared at Zhang Tian with her beautiful watery eyes. Discovered? No, she must be blasting me. Zhang Tian's heart tightened, but his movements did not stop, but accelerated. "What nonsense are you talking about? I am who I am, the great forger who created the magic necklace. Do you still want that beautiful magic necklace?" Zhang Tian said in a firm tone, without any fear. "Am I wrong? Are these dwarves so good at playing? I've never heard of it before." Goddess Freya's beautiful eyes were filled with ripples, and she began to doubt her own judgment. Coupled with Zhang Tian's various superb skills and teasing, she became addicted to desire again. Looking at the goddess Freya who was once again overwhelmed by desire, Zhang Tian finally breathed a sigh of relief and felt relieved. Goddess Freya looked at herself as she was being toyed with by him, but her powerful divine power was far beyond what he could match. If she really had any doubts and resisted, Zhang Tian would have no choice but to run away. Asgard's domain. Thor, the god of thunder, went back first, and then the other gods followed the footsteps of Odin, the king of gods, and returned to the realm of gods. Seeing the return of the god King Odin, many noble and beautiful goddesses fell into doubt and silence. Looking at my growing belly and feeling the life beating inside it, I didn't know what to say for a moment. However, reason and experience tell them that such ugly things should not be made public and they can only endure them in silence. Fortunately, the gods' private lives are rather chaotic, so even if an illegitimate child suddenly appears, it won't cause any big waves. Of course, the most important thing is that this matter must be kept confidential and cannot be leaked. Therefore, these goddesses tacitly covered up the romantic affairs during this period and hid everything. When these goddesses take action, traces, smells, objects, and words in the real world are tampered with and hidden. As for the magic and witchcraft in the dark, there are goddesses who are skilled in it to cover up and eliminate them, so that even the ruler of the world, the king of gods Odin, cannot find out. After the god King Odin returned to Asgard, he felt that the atmosphere was a little strange, but he did not think much about it because he was attracted by the news in the letter in his hand. Damn it! This is a shame for the gods. Freya, the goddess of love and beauty, actually dared to agree to the dwarf's intimate request in private for a magic necklace. Come here, pass on my order. Capture the 4 daring dwarves. I will make them suffer severe punishment. Thor, go find Freya, the goddess of love and beauty, and ask her to return to Asgard to apologize. The god King Odin said angrily. Goddess Freya did not end up growing up with the 4 dwarves, but agreeing to do so was already an insult to the glory of the gods. Thor, the god of thunder and Odin's #1 general and illegitimate son, was very excited when he heard this. Loki had just tricked the dwarf craftsman into giving Asgard several powerful artifacts, including his hammer Mjolnir. He just got it and has never used it yet. This time he might have a chance to use it and unleash its devastating power. After receiving the task, Thor, the god of thunder, turned around and prepared to leave, but was stopped by the king of gods Odin. "Wait a minute, my son. Let Loki go with you." The god King Odin remembered that his son had strong fighting ability. It would not be a good idea to go looking for gods. Loki is cunning and scheming, and if the two of them work together, they will definitely be able to find the goddess Freya. Chapter 171. In the Golden Palace, the god King Odin sat on the throne. "What, go with Thor to find Freya, the goddess of love and beauty?" Loki cried out in surprise after hearing the order. He wanted to refuse, but when he saw the high and majestic god King Odin, he swallowed back the words of refusal. "Well, my dear brother, the great god King Odin, I will complete this difficult task together with Thor, the god of thunder." He took Thor, the god of thunder, across the rainbow bridge and came to the dwarf kingdom again. Here, there is a road leading to the dwarf castle, which allows them to quickly reach the edge of the world. To find the goddess Freya, you must first find the last place where she disappeared and use various tracking methods to track her down. Loki originally wanted to find the hateful inhuman, but now he needed to help Thor, the god of thunder, to find the goddess Freya first. This made him anxious, and he moved quickly and decisively along the way. After a long journey, the two finally arrived at the dwarf castle. In the castle, Thor, the god of thunder, used the hammer he had just obtained to easily beat the four dwarves to the point of being seriously injured and dying. In his heart, he was extremely disgusted with these dwarves who were ungrateful and wanted to eat swan flesh, so he attacked them very harshly. "Nephew, if you hit them again they will die. Let me ask them about the details first." Loki hurried forward to stop him and stopped his violent nephew. As he spoke, he kicked the four dwarves lying on the ground. "Tell me everything you know quickly. I can also speak for you in front of Odin, the king of the gods." The four dwarves' eyes were filled with bitterness. They did not expect that the king of gods Odin would be so angry and send the tyrannical and warlike god of thunder Thor to deal with the matter. So, in order to avoid being beaten to death, he told the whole story in detail. "Dwarf? Liquor? Magic necklace? Trade?" Loki originally didn't know the specific reason that made the king of gods Odin angry and wanted to capture the goddess Freya. But now, he finally knew. Asgard's most beloved goddess made a deal with these disgusting and despicable dwarves for a magic necklace. "Ha ha ha, this is so funny. Freya, a goddess of extraordinary beauty, would give up her dignity for a necklace that would enhance her beauty." Even Loki didn't expect the goddess Freya to do this. The reason why he does things that are both good and evil and plays tricks on the gods is because he is the god of fire and there is restless energy in his body. But the goddess Freya is different. She is of noble birth and is a god exchanged by the Vanir. She has a special status, equivalent to a princess. The god King Odin might also have some unspeakable thoughts about her. After getting what he wanted, Loki cast his exquisite magic spell. In terms of magic, he can be said to be among the top 3 among the gods of Asgard. Hard work pays off. Using advanced tracking magic, he traced back a lingering scent. "Found it!" Loki grinned and laughed. But in a blink of an eye, he realized that the mixed aura was very familiar, and one of them seemed to be the stranger he was looking for. Thinking of this, he became so angry that he clenched his teeth. "Damn it, you really screwed me over." Until now, he didn't even know the name of this alien, but the alien had dug him one huge pit after another. He regretted very much why he did not treat the stranger as a thief and beat him to death. Chanting the spell, he traced all the way back to the cabin in the woods, but the cabin was already deserted. However, when they saw the exquisite and strange instruments in the cabin in the forest, Loki and Thor, the god of thunder, immediately understood their uses and put them away tacitly. Loki cast his magic again. An obscure spell came out from the corner of his mouth, tracing the direction in which the two had left. Using the breath as a guide and the source as a marker, he once again locked onto the two people's ethereal breath and began to pursue and search. However, when they chased to a sparkling, emerald green river, the aura of the two changed, and they left in different directions. At this time, Zhang Tian had already started his third rest, recuperating, restoring his energy, and preparing for the next time. Loki stood by the lake, not knowing who to look for. However, when he saw Thor, the god of thunder, standing beside him. His eyes turned and he immediately had an idea. My dear nephew, there are 2 clues now. Let's follow up one each. Thor frowned after hearing this, but still agreed. The route Loki is pursuing is Zhangtian, while the one Thor is looking for is the goddess Freya. Following the scent, I found Zhangtian sitting by the fire, eating barbecue. You despicable alien, I finally found you. Clenching his fists, Loki said coldly. Zhangtian was startled and found that the person coming was his old acquaintance Loki. However, seeing how aggressive he was at this moment, as if he was looking for trouble, he couldn't help but feel nervous. My dear friend, come and have a delicious barbecue, drink sweet wine, and let us clear up the misunderstanding. Zhangtian wanted to run away, but when he thought about how he was no match for Loki and that most of his abilities were learned from him, he sat down. Misunderstanding? What kind of misunderstanding could there be, you despicable and shameless guy? Explain to me what you mean by the reason why I am the god of fire is because there is a flame of love for you in my heart. Besides, it's cold. Do you want to stay warm in my arms? If some goddesses from Asgard hadn't asked me to take responsibility, I wouldn't have known that you also used my appearance to deceive people. Loki looked grim, remembering the time in Asgard when those pregnant goddesses came to him. When she learned that it was not Loki who did it, the goddess immediately turned hostile, beat him up and threatened him not to tell anyone. He is Loki, the god of fire and trickery, the brother of the king of gods Odin, and the wise man of Asgard. When has he ever been so miserable? These cheesy love words were indeed said by Zhangtian, and he couldn't refute them at all. However, he was quick-witted and decided to try another way to see if he could convince Loki, such as using friendship, which perhaps the 2 of them had. My most respected Loki, I really didn't want to do this at first. I regard you as a brother and friend. I originally transformed into your appearance because I wanted to have some peace and quiet, but I didn't expect that your handsome appearance would attract so many goddesses. What's more, by doing this, I am indirectly helping you gain many lovers. You should be grateful to me. Zhangtian looked at Loki with an innocent and helpless expression. Chapter 172. Friend? Brother? Who is your friend? I don't even know your FG name. Loki said sarcastically. He had always toyed with other gods and found it endless fun, but when it came to himself, it was like a wheel rolling over his face. Haha, that's what you asked. If you asked me, I would definitely tell you that you can call me Zhangtian. Zhangtian said sincerely. Zhangtian, this name must be fake too. I have been observing you in humans for a long time. This should be a code name. Loki's eyes were cold, angry, and very dissatisfied. In the past, he might have been interested in this liar, but now that he had been cheated so badly, he had lost the fun of playing with everything. Kangtian, also known as Qin Mu, was ashamed. I don't know how Loki found out. The system will have protection measures. Generally, the real name will be protected and the pseudonym written in the system will be used. However, it is also because of this that we can see the extraordinary wisdom and strategy of Loki, the god of trickery. He was about to argue again when Loki stretched out a finger and waved it at him. A complicated magic circle appeared beside him and bound him tightly. No need to say anything more. I will take you back to Asgard and let you accept the punishment from the god King Odin. Go back to Asgard and let me face the god King Odin. Loki, do you really dare to do this? Aren't you afraid that I will expose you? Even if the god King Odin forgives you, the goddesses who have crossed paths with me will definitely tear you apart. Qin Mu looked calm and fearless. He already had a thorough understanding of the nature of the gods. These gods are nothing more powerful humans. Their moral values, emotions, and desires are basically the same as those of humans. It's just that humans are weak and have no great power, so they can only suppress the evil thoughts in their hearts and cannot realize them. Looking at Loki's uncertain expression, Qin Mu grinned. Loki, just let me go. I promise I won't tell anyone. Think about it, do you want to make it in Asgard? Even if you retaliate against me, I won't suffer any substantial harm, but it's different for you. Think about your wife and children. Seeing Loki's changing expression, Qin Mu knew that he was about to compromise. He didn't want to do this, but reality is often so ridiculous. It is easier and more effective to use threats than to use emotions to persuade people. This may be the reason why bad people in this world can live happier lives. After some difficult psychological thinking, Loki finally decided to let Qin Mu go. Go away and never come back. God King Odin sent me and Thor to capture the goddess Freya. If you are caught by Thor, it will be difficult to handle. As soon as he finished speaking, the mysterious and complicated magic circle surrounding Qin Mu disappeared, and he regained his freedom. But Qin Mu did not leave immediately, but was a little entangled and embarrassed. I'm afraid that won't work. The magic necklace is still in my hands. Goddess Freya has paid so much for it. If I don't get it, she will probably go crazy. Let me give her this magic necklace. Qin Mu was not thinking about the fourth movement, but he just left like this, and he always felt it was not good. The goddess is open-minded, but also very rule-abiding. It would be too unkind of me to just walk away. What? Why is the magic necklace here with you? Did you steal it? Damn it, you are the mastermind. Ahaha, you turned into a dwarf and slept with Freya, the graceful and beautiful goddess of the gods. Loki felt dizzy and felt that the world was dark and the sky was spinning. His own transfiguration technique was actually being used by the guy in front of him to seduce other girls and steal their beauty. The most beautiful woman in the world of gods, the object of admiration of thousands of male gods, could not escape his clutches. Still using the lowly and mean appearance of a dwarf. If this matter were to be reported back to Asgard, the many male gods in the divine world would probably be heartbroken. Thinking of this, Loki laughed out of anger. Bold and fearless, this is the person in front of us. If you dare to face Thor, the god of thunder, I will not stop you. You can do whatever you want. But you have to think clearly. Thor is not as easy to talk to as me. Maybe he will use the new Thor's hammer to break your bones bit by bit, making you feel excruciating pain. He determined that Qin Mu had no strength or means to take the goddess Freya away from Thor. This is not simple ridicule and distrust, but a disparity in strength between the two sides. The Inhumans have special abilities and strange personalities, but none of them can compare to the gods, let alone Thor, the god of thunder who has unparalleled combat power among the gods. Qin Mu heard Loki's arrogance and prejudice, and his distrust of his strength. His strength is indeed not good enough and cannot reach the level of Thor. But he has an ability, which was given to him by Loki, which can enable him to gain powerful strength and perhaps turn defeat into victory. That is the ability of transfiguration, which allows one to transform into the appearance of other creatures and gain some of their strength. He planned to transform into the appearance of Zeus and obtain his ability to control thunder in order to fight against Thor, the god of thunder, or to rescue the goddess Freya. The world is different, and the laws of the world are also different, but that doesn't mean he can't use some of Zeus' functions. For some reason, he found himself deeply impressed by the god King Zeus, as if he knew all of his moves by heart and could simulate about 30% of them in another world. Although this strength is not enough to defeat Thor, the god of thunder, he will not be timid when facing him and will not be easily defeated by him. They have the same attributes and do not need to be restrained by Thor's thunder power. In fact, Zeus' attainments in thunder are far beyond Thor. The difference between a god king and a non-god king is as vast as the difference between heaven and earth. This is what you said, just watch from the side. Qin Mu said. Loki said unhappily. You are so confident. It seems you have other tricks that you haven't used yet. But I keep my word. I won't interfere if I say so. But I sneered in my heart. I am Loki, the god of trickery. Although I will not interfere, I will report it to the king of gods Odin and let him execute you personally. Qin Mu looked at Loki with his hands behind his back, looking at him indifferently, and was relieved to make sure that he would not interfere. He was wary of Thor, but he was even more wary of Loki. Comparing a warrior and a mage, generally speaking, the mage is of course more difficult to deal with. Not to mention, Loki is the smartest one among these gods. He is cunning and resourceful. It is not certain that you can defeat him in a head-on confrontation. With a thought, a green flying sword appeared in front of him, and in the blink of an eye it carried him out and flew away into the distance. Chapter 173. High in the sky, the wind was fierce and biting. Qin Mu stood in the air with her feet on a flying sword, her long hair draped over her shoulders and her eyes staring straight ahead. In the forest not far away, he felt two huge forces confronting each other without any avoidance. One is the power of thunder that destroys the world, and the power on the other side is also familiar to Qin Mu. This power is exactly what was erupted by the goddess Freya. Judging from the strength alone, the two are evenly matched and it is difficult to determine the winner for the time being. The goddess Freya in Asgard is not just a beautiful vase. She is extremely talented in combat, and even a powerful god warrior like Thor cannot capture her. Beautiful goddess Freya, please come back to Asgard with me and apologize to the great god King Odin. Don't resist any longer. Your actions have aroused the wrath of the god king. Thor, the god of thunder, tried to persuade him. He didn't want to go to war with the goddess Freya. After all, Freya had many suitors, and a single spit from them could drown him. On the other hand, the goddess Freya has a special status. She is the exchange deity of the Vanir and the Aesir, and she cannot be lost. In the past, the two gods had a conflict and fought each other, but later they found that the Vanir was a tough nut to crack. After some thought, the gods decided to shake hands and make peace, and exchange important figures from their respective tribes as hostages. The Vanir sent the goddess Freya and her brother Frey, the god of harvest. Here the Aesir played a trick and sent a god who looked handsome and tall, but in fact this god was a famous mentally retarded child. The other is Mimir, the wise giant who guards the fountain of wisdom, an old man who is plain-looking but extremely wise. Mimir helped the mentally retarded child conceal his intellectual disability from the Vanir. In this way, the Aesir suffered no losses, and even gained two extremely gifted and very important gods for free. Unfortunately, the Vanir later discovered the Aesir's tricks and conspiracies, and cut off the head of the wise giant Mimir and sent it back. Poor Mimir, as the uncle of the god King Odin, his death was so tragic and ridiculous. Adhering to the principle of recycling waste, the god King Odin cast a magic on his head, allowing it to speak and answer all the world's questions. I don't want to go back. I didn't get my magic necklace. Goddess Freya was wearing exquisite female armor, which fully highlighted her beautiful and enchanting figure. With waist-length golden hair, a graceful figure and a noble temperament, she looks like a female war god from mythology. Her tone was resolute and her eyes were calm, and she was unwilling to submit to the orders of Thor. Give me a little more time, and I'll get my necklace. How could she be willing to go back to Asgard now? She, who was so perfect, had already slept with the ugly dwarf 3 times. This time is not a big deal. As long as she can get the magic necklace, she will be the most beautiful goddess in the world. When Thor, the god of thunder, saw that goddess Freya refused to listen to his advice, his expression became cold and a powerful and terrifying force burst out from his body. This thunder-filled force was vast, huge, and violent, completely destroying the forest it was in. There was a flash in his hand, and Thor's hammer flashing with blue electric light appeared in his hand. With the appearance of Thor's hammer, the surrounding thunder power seemed to have found its backbone and rushed in and poured into Thor's hammer. The goddess Freya had not been in Asgard before, and was unaware that Loki had used trickery to extort several powerful artifacts from the dwarves for the gods. With the blessing of Thor's hammer, Thor became majestic and domineering, like an almighty god of war. Qin Mu peeped from the side, watching all this happen, and took a breath. When I met Thor in Asgard, he was not that strong yet. Unexpectedly, he got the hammer of Thor and his strength increased several times. On the other side, the goddess Freya's beautiful face tensed slightly, then she raised the sword in her hand and rushed forward. The power of thunder was violent and brutal, and Thor's hammer was fierce and heavy, and soon the goddess Freya was defeated. Looking at the goddess Freya with her hair loose, skin as white as jade, and sweat dripping, there is a different kind of beauty. In the blink of an eye, Qin Mu transformed into a tall, handsome, terrifying being. If seen by players, they would definitely shout the name of God King Zeus. After transforming into Zeus, Qin Mu realized that he had unparalleled control over the thunder element between heaven and earth. With a wave of his hand, countless violent thunder elements moved towards him, like children returning home, extremely docile. Even in his mind, the control and application skills of thunder, as well as the many wonderful abilities of Zeus's thunder body, emerged from time to time. Why does it look so familiar? It's like I've been studying it for a long time. Doubts arose in Qin Mu's mind, but he quickly put them behind him. At this time, the goddess Freya was already sweating and gasping under the violent attack of Thor, the god of thunder, and was about to be unable to resist. Qin Mu's mind moved, and he began to control the thunder element between heaven and earth to turn against him, and took back Thor's control over the power of thunder. On the other side, Thor, the god of thunder, swung his hammer vigorously, with thunder and lightning intertwined around him, exuding an endless aura of destruction. But in the next moment, the thunder and lightning disappeared, leaving only a weak electric current surging around the body. If you don't look carefully, you can't see it clearly. What's going on? Where's my thunder power? Realizing that most of the thunder power in his body had escaped, Thor became furious and looked around. According to his intuition, the mastermind behind all this is nearby. Unfortunately, he looked left and right but couldn't find anyone. Fortunately, in a short moment, he regained most of the control of the thunder. Goddess Freya was puzzled by the fluctuating momentum of Thor, the god of thunder. But in a moment, the beautiful face blossomed into a gorgeous smile, her beautiful eyes rippled, she chuckled, turned around and ran away. If you don't run now, when will you run? Her red lips moved slightly as she chanted a spell, summoning her gorgeous and exquisite mount, which flew into the sky and disappeared into the distance. Thor, the god of thunder, watched all this and was so angry that he gritted his teeth and wanted to throw away the hammer in his hand, but he finally endured it. Thor's hammer has a terrifying ability, that is, no matter how far it is thrown, it will always hit the target and return to Thor's hands without fail. If the goddess Freya were accidentally killed, it would be a big trouble. The Vanir will certainly not miss this opportunity, and a brutal war may break out again between the two tribes. By that time, even his father, the god King Odin, might not be able to protect him. Qin Mu, who was in the sky, saw the goddess Freya going away, and a green light flashed, and he followed her on his sword. Freya's mount was extremely fast and it stopped in a distant area in an instant. Qin Mu watched as the goddess Freya took off her exquisite armor, washed off the mud and filth from the battle, revealing her originally white skin as white as jade. Chapter 174. Qin Mu watched it from the air for a while, finding it very pleasing to the eye, and decided not to go down. After the filth on the goddess Freya's body was washed away, her skin, as white as mutton fat jade, was translucent and flawless, and was exposed to the air. Bathed in the sun, it shines brightly and is sacred and inviolable. Perhaps Qin Mu's gaze was too unscrupulous. Goddess Freya looked up at the sky in confusion, but her vision was obscured by dark clouds and she did not notice anything unusual. After washing, she walked out of the clear river water, swaying in her graceful manner, extremely beautiful. As she put on her gorgeous clothes and combed her wet hair, her eyes couldn't help but see the necklace beside her. Her eyebrows twitched, her red lips slightly parted, and a captivating smile spread across her face. Magic necklace, my magic necklace. Goddess Freya smiled happily, not pondering why the necklace appeared beside her, but quickly put it on. The exquisite and luxurious magic necklace sparkled brightly when worn on her snow-white and plump chest. With the blessing of the necklace, she becomes more graceful, dazzling, and her appearance and temperament surpass all goddesses. She paid so much just to get the magic necklace and become the most beautiful woman in the world. With the magic necklace, her wish was fulfilled, so she rode her mount back to Asgard. It is impossible to say that they are not afraid of the orders of King Odin. The majesty of King Odin has been hidden in the hearts of the gods for many years. The reason why he rejected Thor before was simply because he was unwilling to accept that his efforts were not rewarded. At this time, she got the magic necklace. Although she didn't know which kind-hearted person gave it to her, she was still satisfied. He immediately prepared to rush back to Asgard to apologize to the god King Odin. She also understood that having an affair with a dwarf was a serious crime, which would anger the gods and would certainly not lead to a good outcome. We can only hope that by admitting our mistakes proactively and with a sincere attitude, the punishment from the god King Odin will be reduced. Without Qin Mu's interference, Thor regained his divine power and control over the thunder element. Loki came up to him and was secretly surprised when he saw Thor, the god of thunder, with a serious expression on his face. He didn't expect that this strange alien could really make Thor, the god of thunder, lose face. Looking at Thor's expression, it seemed that he had suffered a serious trauma in his heart. He went forward to talk to him, but Thor ignored him and walked towards Asgard instead. Feeling embarrassed, Loki spread his hands and followed behind with a nonchalant look on his face. He was used to being hated and ignored. In the Golden Palace of Asgard. Bold goddess Freya, you dared to disregard the honor of the gods and reach an agreement with the dwarves, and then used despicable means to steal their magic necklace. Do you know that your behavior is bringing shame to the gods? On the throne, the king of gods Odin sat high up with an extremely majestic look, recounting the crimes of the goddess Freya. He suppressed his anger and looked at the goddess Freya, who was dressed up and as beautiful as a flower. In order to become beautiful and for exquisite jewelry, she is willing to do such a thing. Fortunately, I didn't really lose my virginity to 4 dirty dwarves. Goddess Freya, who was immersed in her own beautiful face, was also stunned after hearing this. Great God King Odin, I don't understand what you mean. I didn't steal it by despicable means. Although the process was extremely complicated, I did complete the transaction. Otherwise, how could the magic necklace be delivered to me? After hearing the words of the goddess Freya, the wise god King Odin frowned and scanned her up and down with his sharp eyes. Looking at the magic necklace on her chest, thinking about what she said about completing the transaction, my mind felt a little blocked. You mean you made a deal with the dwarves, so why are they complaining to me? No, you actually dared to make a deal with them. Don't you care about the glory of the gods? The god King Odin was extremely angry and furious. He suddenly thought that he might as well use some despicable means to get the magic necklace. The Aesir have done this kind of thing many times. As long as they kill the enemy, no one will know. Wait a minute, the dwarves said it wasn't them, so who turned into a lowly dwarf to trade with you? Who dares to deceive us gods and take away your virginity? As soon as these words were spoken, the golden palace suddenly fell silent. The girl Freya's beautiful eyes flickered, ripples appeared in them, and a hint of hesitation appeared on her beautiful face, as if she had thought of something. Her tone was lively and pleasant, like the sound of nature. There are only a handful of people in the 9 realms who can transform into a lowly and ugly dwarf and hide their existence from me. There is only one person in Asgard who can do this. Odin, the king of the gods, looked cold and angrily said, Loki. Someone, go call back Thor and Loki. I want to interrogate them personally. After God gave the order, he quickly rushed to the edge of the world. After a while, the anger in Odin, the king of gods, gradually dissipated. When his reason regained its hold, he began to realize the irrationality of it. Loki was clearly in Asgard, how could he run so far away and deceive the goddess Freya? But the style of this incident is very much like him. Loki is perverse, cynical, and likes to play tricks on the gods. Maybe this was also his plan. He transformed himself into a lowly dwarf, toyed with the goddess Freya, and then made it public to embarrass her. But how did he manage to cross such a long distance and do such a thing? This left the god King Odin puzzled, and he could only wait for Loki to come back and then slowly ask him. After receiving the message, Thor and Loki rode back to Asgard as fast as they could. When the two returned to Asgard, in the Golden Palace. How is the work you did? The high and mighty, extremely noble god King Odin looked at the two of them and said majestically. Great God King, we have already sentenced the sky-carrying dwarves to castration, so that they can focus on guarding the 4 poles of heaven and earth in the future. Loki said. Oh, is that so? Loki, my dear brother, don't you feel sad for them? The god King Odin looked at Loki with a dim gaze and a scrutinizing attitude. Click. Loki's heart skipped a beat and he felt something was wrong. Could it be that he discovered something? He suppressed his uneasy emotions and had a blank look on his face. My dearest brother, what are you talking about? Why can't I understand? The 4 dwarves blasphemed the glory of the gods. Shouldn't they be punished? There was a daze in his eyes, and he felt a little helpless and puzzled. Stop pretending. You and I are brothers who grew up together. I can tell at a glance that you are lying. Tell the truth. Goddess Freya did not send anyone to steal the dwarf's necklace. Instead, she completed the transaction and lost her virginity to someone else. I'm sure that person is you. Only you have the ability to do this. Odin, the king of gods, looked majestic, as if he saw through everything. He actually didn't know if it was Loki, but he was the most likely suspect, so he wanted to see if he could find him out. Chapter 175. Inside the Golden Palace, the atmosphere was cold and silent. Loki didn't expect you to be such a person, and you still refuse to admit it. Goddess Freya looked at the handsome Loki, and when she thought of the appearance of the dwarf she served, she couldn't help feeling resentful. If he was holding a magic necklace and threatening me with this appearance, would I really be able to disobey him? In her mind, she was basically certain that it was done by Loki, the god of trickery and conspiracy, and only he could be so boring. Recalling those 3 times, each one was more intense and interesting than the last, her eyes flushed, her brows were full of spring, and she was so beautiful that she was breathtakingly beautiful. It's not me. It's really not me. I am innocent. Loki's face turned pale and he was unwilling to admit it. He didn't want to take the blame. Humph, if it's not you, then who else could it be? Who has this ability? The god King Odin snorted coldly. Then tell me where you were at that time. As long as there is a god to testify for you, I will believe you. The three gods stared at Loki, hoping to get the answer from him. Loki opened his mouth, not knowing what to say. I said, I might die now. If you don't tell me, you will be tortured and then killed. During that time, he took advantage of the gods obtaining several artifacts and holding a banquet to go and comfort Sif, the wife of Thor. When Qin Mu proposed to silence her, he actually understood what she meant, but she was his lover, his brother's daughter-in-law, and his nephew's wife. With all these layers of relationships, he couldn't bear to do that to her, so he could only reluctantly cut off her dazzlingly beautiful long hair. After she got golden hair, she took the opportunity when Thor, the god of thunder, was attending a lively banquet of gods to apologize and comfort Sif. But he couldn't tell this to outsiders, because if he did, his eldest nephew next to him would be the first to kill him with Thor's hammer. You know, he had already had his suspicions. But feeling the burning and majestic gaze on him, Loki could hardly bear it. In a flash, he thought of diverting the trouble away. Loki sighed and said with a look of regret, I swear by the glory of the gods, I really didn't do it, but this matter does have something to do with me. Loki put himself aside and prepared to hand over Qin Mu. I have reached an agreement with Qin Mu before that I will not get involved. Now that he has spoken out, even if the gods come looking for him, it is none of his business. In the sacred and solemn golden palace, the god King Odin sat on the throne in the hall with a calm expression. But in my heart, I already gave a thumbs up to my own behavior. In the 9 realms, not everyone can deceive Loki. However, it turned out that Loki really didn't do this, but was just slightly related, which made him curious. He really wanted to know the hidden story. The surface is still calm and majestic, filled with the supreme pressure of the god king. Loki, tell me everything you know and see if it can atone for your crimes. Loki was delighted and said calmly, this all started when I met a stranger. I made a bet with him, but I didn't expect that he was so treacherous and evil that he lost his own transformation mask and transfiguration. He used my mask and spells to cheat people everywhere, and somehow he found out about the goddess Freya and the dwarves. You all know what happened next. He replaced the dwarves and made a deal with the goddess Freya. As he spoke loudly, expressions of regret and remorse kept appearing on his face. Repentance, anger, irritation, all kinds of expressions emerged one by one, just like the most outstanding drama actors. When I was ordered to track him down, I found his traces among them, but I didn't expect that he was so cunning and escaped my capture. That's the thing. The matter of goddess Freya has nothing to do with me. After hearing Loki's explanation, the gods showed strange looks on their faces. Alien? That weird human race. I don't know where they came from, and I don't know how many there are. Sometimes their numbers are extremely large, and sometimes their numbers become extremely small, and their behavior is strange. If he is an extraordinary person and behaves recklessly, it seems possible. However, most of them are relatively weak and cannot rival the gods, let alone deceive the goddess Freya. When the god King Odin was touring the 9 realms, he met many strange people. After they were discovered to be gods, they pestered him and behaved in all kinds of strange ways. Therefore, the king of gods Odin had some faith in Loki's words. However, I don't believe it too much and I still need to go and verify it. Loki, it's not that we don't believe you, but you always come up with some conspiracies and tricks to play tricks on the gods. This matter must be thoroughly investigated before you can be cleared of all charges. A loud and majestic voice spread throughout the Golden Palace. Majestic and sacred, with irresistible magic. After hearing this, Loki's mouth twitched slightly. He did not lie this time, but he did not gain the trust of the king of gods. It's a pity that he had never heard the story of the boy who cried wolf, otherwise he would immediately realize that his credibility had already been overdrawn. He sighed inwardly and took out the magic pointer he had prepared long ago. This is a magic pointer I made using his aura. It can help me find him quickly. With his help, no matter where the alien runs to or what he becomes, we can lock him down. Just as Odin, the king of gods, was about to speak, the goddess Freya stepped forward first and said, pursing her lips. Great god King Odin, please allow me to make amends and capture this daring alien. Goddess Freya was very conflicted and angry about this alien. If we had known at that time that he was not a dwarf, we would not have needed to abide by the oath and could have directly resisted and robbed him. However, in this case, I don't know whether the magic necklace full of magic power that infinitely amplifies charm will fall into my hands. She didn't know whether to be happy or angry that Thor dared to interfere and return the magic necklace to her. She wanted to capture this daring stranger, interrogate him and punish him. Odin, the king of the gods, looked calm, and it was unknown what he was thinking. After a moment, he said, "In that case, let you go. It will be a good opportunity to make up for your mistake." At this moment, Thor, the god of thunder, who had been standing aside without saying anything, spoke. "That alien may not be a simple person. If we let goddess Freya go, I'm afraid something might go wrong." As soon as these words were spoken, the gods turned their attention to Thor, the god of thunder, with puzzled looks. When would Thor ever say something like this? That invincible warrior who fought against heaven and earth and was invincible would think that a small alien had the ability to threaten the gods. Even if he learned Loki's magic and obtained the mask of transformation, he would not be able to resist the powerful force of the goddess Freya. Seeing that everyone was staring at him, Thor told them what had happened to him. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you're notified of future uploads. You can find the next parts in the playlist visible on the screen or on my channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.